Rings fans. I am KaliCosplay, and this is the Voices of Arda podcast. With the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power TV show airing over the next 7 to 8 weeks, we will be doing weekly wrap-ups with all our friends based on what we thought of the episodes. If you want to be on this podcast sharing your thoughts and having this chat with us, you can email the podcast at voicesofarda@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Voices of Arda, or you can leave a comment under, in the comment section of this YouTube video. So without further ado, does everybody want to introduce themselves? Let's go with Annex first.
Hey, I'm Annex, Fantasy Annex on TikTok. That's about it.
Yay!
Woo! I don't
Andy,
know what
go.
order we're in. Okay, thanks. Hi, my name's Andy. You can follow me on TikTok as Andy Inc. or Andy INC. And I also have a podcast that Kali helps me out with called Talking with Friends. And so, yeah, in spirit of that, I'm here today.
Yay!
Yeah. Pete, go.
Well, my name is Pete, or it's Belmont. You can follow me on TikTok at BE1Mont. I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and I've been, just reading these books for years and participate in all sorts of stuff in the community.
Nice. And hi, everyone. I'm Nick, or Fornost42 on TikTok and Twitter. Follow me on there. Same as Pete. I've been a huge fan for many, many years, and just so happy to be part of this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So this format will be less formal than a regular podcast. We're just going to chat and hang out and just share our thoughts. Annex, why don't you go ahead and tell us why we're here today? You're very excited, I can tell.
So, over the last week, we've all seen the first 2 episodes of the Rings of Power. And we have thoughts, and I think we have varying degrees of loved it, and I think we all love different stuff. I thought let's talk about it. Let's see what we loved, what we didn't love so much. Yeah, Pete,
Well,
do you want to start?
Sure, I can start off. Let's talk about the first episode in our first 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm not going to bring up any of the Peter Jackson movies. I'm not going to make comparisons to them because I don't think that's fair. I want to state right now that these are 2 different adaptations and we need to recognize them. So same thing we see Rankin Bass's animated movies, same way we feel about the Peter Jackson movies.
And can I just caveat though that my brain does not fully remember where episode 1 ends and episode 2 begins.
I was just thinking of them as a unit
actually do remember.
Okay.
Surprisingly enough.
Thank you, Pete.
So we open up with actually a prologue. And it's Galadriel, if you want to say it the way to do in the show, doing a narrative of what's kind of been the start of everything, at least with the elves. And we start off with actually seeing, for the first time ever, a scene in Valinor of children of the Quendi, the elves, existing during the years of the trees. And so just to start off with that, moving on, we see that. We see a swan ship, which almost alludes to the the kinslaying of the Teleri. And we see Finrod. We meet Finrod Felagund, and he speaks to his sister about a few things after, other elves, specifically one with red hair, destroys a swan-shaped boat.
That red hair.
Yes.
Which seems to be obviously there's several nods, and I've noticed that immediately. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. So we see kind of like what goes down in the first page, but technically what's on the second page of the appendix of the Lord of the Rings, I thought the show starts off really strong. We see things that we never really dreamed of seeing. We see, actual interaction in, near Tuna, for example, in Valinor on Aman. And, then we move on and we see a crazed epic battle where we see an actual eagle and dragon swooping into the air, crashing into the ground as fire spurts from the grounds. And, I think there's like, if you look in the distance, at least when I saw it, I thought I saw a Balrog, not sure, but there's obviously orcs and elves fighting. We see Finrod again. And then there's references to Finrod's death and the one enemy that killed him, Sauron. And we actually see Sauron first off in like the first 10 minutes of this show, which is crazy. You know, and he's like, he's very reminiscent of what we saw in this. Is my only big comparison I'm making to Peter Jackson, Peter Jackson's, because of the three-prong horn, but everything else felt very original with the cloak and all that stuff. So I thought it was cool how they did that. I thought they added a little familiarity. That's the only thing I really noticed I want to bring up about Peter Jackson's. But overall, I thought the show starts off strong. And I thought it touches base on things that we all wanted to see, but it also draws a lot of frustration because we're not seeing exactly what we want to see, which is the kinsley. We want to see Feanor and his sons, and we also see Finrod taking the oath with Feanor's son, which is technically inaccurate.
It's an
is weird.
interesting turn of phrasing that you're using, Pete. Of
I know. it's-
we want to see, and I'm like, I think you need to define who we is in that statement.
Well, you know,
because
I'm trying to talk as much as from a perspective of someone who's like, I want to see the Silmarillion on the screen. I want to
Right.
see the trees in action.
Right.
I want to see Feanor. In truth, I'm okay seeing all of it or any of it at any point. It could have been like 2 minutes of it. I would have been happy about it. But my point is there is some frustration where I could find frustration in that, where it's
Mhm.
not as accurate as what I wanted to see or like what I wanted them to pull from that. Like I wanted to kind of see Tolsirian. I wanted to
Yeah.
kind of have some
Yeah.
connection with the Silmaril. I wanted, because it is mentioned immediately in the appendix. Like I wanted to, they bring up Beren and Luthien. There's no mention of it whatsoever. And I wonder why at the same time. And so this brings me up to my main point that I want to make about the first 15 minutes.
Mhm.
It just kind of seems like they left a lot out because eventually they're going to want to, go after those IPs. And they want to eventually do something with the Silmarillion.
Yeah,
So-
can I jump in on that point
of
actually?
course.
Because that's a something that I was originally kind of taken aback is too strong
Yeah.
a phrase, but taken aback by, because I don't have a better term. But then as we see later on, and we'll get into this as we dig through both episodes,
Mhm.
we see other things that I thought would be in the prologue come out in the story, either
Yeah.
as Easter
That's a good
eggs and
point.
phrases, or like for example, I'll just call out the one that I am fairly certain I'm right in what I saw, but only Andy noticed it because I was like punching her in the theater, which was I'm pretty sure in the carved epitaphs
Luthien.
of fallen elves, it was Luthien with Huan in front of her. We know for a fact that Finrod is one of those carvings, but there's another elf woman with a dog in front of her. What elf woman has a dog in front of her except Luthien? I thought
That's
that
a
was
good point.
great, and it's a good call out without drawing into it. But I think I agree with you, Pete, that there's a chance they just want to go for those IPs later, so they're not trying to tell too much of the story.
However, However, what I think is happening personally, obviously there's no way to know until we see it all unfold, right? But what I think is happening is that they were like, this is information fucking overload for somebody who knows jack about the
Yep.
show. And so I think what they're going to do is they've introduced it, they get us going, and then as these things pop up, like there's no way that they're definitely going to talk about Beren and Luthien. You know what I mean? Like
okay.
they're definitely they're going to weave
talk
them
about a lot of
in
things, I think.
organically. You know what I mean? As people come up, like we've already seen Celebrimbor mention Feanor, and it's like that they're
Dude,
weaving
I'm
it
pretty
in.
sure the dragon helm was carved into that too. We were talking about
Yep.
that.
Yes.
That we
Yeah.
see
Oh,
like
yeah.
the
Yes.
dragon helm with
Saw that
Orloman.
for sure. Yep.
And I was like,
But
okay,
you
well,
know-
they don't have rights to that.
What was
Right.
interesting in the Feanor discussion by Celebrimbor is Celebrimbor never says Feanor, my grandfather. He says, he talks about Feanor and his hammer and his creating the Silmaril, but he never
Mhm.
says Feanor, my grandfather.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I wonder why. I wonder why that wasn't mentioned. It
Yeah,
was
that's
an
a
easy
good
connection.
point.
Family
I mean,
history,
everyone probably knows who the way Gil-galad talks about it, he's like, you know who Celebrimbor is, and he's like, yeah, this is like one of
That's
the greatest
true.
lords of elves, and he's recognized this. So I mean, I would imagine that you don't want to add too much information, and as someone
Yeah.
who's trying to establish himself as like the
Mhm.
premier like smithy in comparison to his grandfather, I don't think
True.
he would want to be like, I don't think he would have to refer to him as his grandfather, because like, Elrond knows who Feanor is.
Yeah,
Everyone
but
knows who
for the
Feanor
sake of
in
the
is.
audience. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
television writing, you often broadcast more than the characters need to know so that we, the audience, can do it. So
course.
Mhm.
I'm with you, Annex, that I think that's a little weird, unless he's trying to distance himself from it. He's trying to associate himself with the skill, but not with the familial connection,
Yeah.
because Feanor's an
Mhm.
asshole. So that
Well,
that could be a
also his
component.
father is an asshole too. And the sons of
Right.
Feanor and Feanor and the Doom of the Noldor, that's all they're doing.
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
Yep.
maybe as
Yeah.
him, he did like in Doriath, he totally was just like, screw my dad. Like, psh, see
Yeah.
you later, buddy. You're just
True. Good
after
point.
the second kinslaying. So, you know, there's
Mhm.
could be a
How
lot
do
of
we-
reasons there.
So how do we feel about Celebrimbor in general? I mean, I know that we saw very, very little of him.
I wish
Right.
He
Lee was
spoke
here.
maybe like what, 5 minutes.
Before we get into that, because I feel like we just like skipped over the whole like beginning of the series, which is like Galadriel in
fair.
the north and Galadriel taking the dagger, which is a cool like Telperion Laurelin 3
Mhm.
Silmaril dagger, which is like the
It's
coolest
beautiful.
original piece of like weaponry I've ever seen in any fantasy show.
Yeah,
I don't care
seriously.
like what anyone says to me. I'm like, that shit, that was fly.
Right.
But anyways, like we
Correct.
see correct.
Mhm.
We see a Galadriel like
Only
kind of,
interpretation.
it's incorrect, Pete. They would never have such daggers in the
Yeah.
Middle Earth. You know, we see Galadriel in the north, you know, like the furthest north, which, you know, I would assume, I guess they're referencing not Angband, but Autumno, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the
I
old
thought
fortress
so.
of Morgoth. They dropped Morgoth's name in this
Oh, yeah.
series too.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they're just like Morgoth. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh shit, like it's like that, okay. But yeah, I thought it was like weird. I don't know if I like the setup for Sauron. You know, I just like the whole like going to the north, they like splash some water on the anvil. It's like, I
I'm-
don't know how I felt about that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if she was just like wrong about what that symbol means. Like, does that symbol actually
don't-
mean Sauron was there?
I think,
I think it
I
does.
think it
yes,
does.
it
Yeah,
does.
because the symbol is also on the sword, which is clearly
It like
something to do
is
with
the
Sauron.
sword.
And on
Right,
Finrod's
yeah.
body.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
Sorry.
and yeah, so
Yeah.
it
Well,
clearly,
no, so I'm not saying it's not Sauron's symbol, to be clear. I'm just
Uh-huh.
saying, like, when did he touch this? He could have been there frickin'
Yeah.
2,000
Well,
years
the-
before
the
that.
Yeah.
thing about that is that when they go back and, you know, you have Gil-galad and Elrond, and they've sent Galadriel to Valinor, and Elrond's talking to Gil-galad, or however you want to fucking say his name. But he, Gilly,
I like Gil-galad. I've always liked Gil-galad.
yeah.
That's just
Well,
I've always liked Gil-galad. I'm kidding.
I've always liked my man Gil.
Well,
My
Um,
man Gil, exactly.
so-
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad, you know, that's my boy.
Gil-galad.
So when he's
yeah.
talking to Elrond, he's basically saying like, she's not wrong, but I don't want her
Yep.
doing this. I don't want her involved. And I'm like,
Mhm. I didn't like that. I didn't like
I
that.
hated that.
I did not like
Mhm.
that. That is my biggest, like, what are you doing?
I
Like,
think that's
You,
the
like
only,
Gil-galad
Two
talking
biggest
to
problems.
Galadriel that way.
Yeah.
Galadriel would have been like, dude, shut
like,
up.
yeah.
Listen.
yeah.
I think
Like-
I think you bring up something that I didn't appreciate in the show, which is that Galadriel has this fiery spirit to her, and she's a warrior, and she's like angry, and she's like seeking revenge and everything. All of that is great.
Mhm.
Uh,
I'm
But-
cool with it.
I didn't appreciate the way the other elves around her approached her
Yeah.
and interacted with her, because like she is a commander of the armies, and you know she's like she's like under Gil-galad, but she's also Galadriel,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, granddaughter of Finwë. She's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, and the elves to
maybe
say
it's-
to Elrond, your friend is here. Like, no, Galadriel is here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and Gil-galad could never speak like that to Galadriel. You know,
Right.
in that stare down, Galadriel is not backing down from Gil-galad. Come on,
right.
like more
Not in the
respect to
way that
Galadriel.
they had her do it anyway.
They set
Like-
it up where it was like 300 years of searching or whatever. I think that's what they said, a few hundred years of
Mhm.
searching like all over for Sauron. And they made it seem like she was like obsessed with the idea of Sauron, which I just am like, I hope they do some exposition and
Yeah.
backstepping later in the season or next
Yeah.
season where it's like this shows what she was up to in the first age, where they at least show her meeting Celeborn or like chilling with Melion or some kind of reference, because like that all in the appendix
Now,
actually.
here's the
by
interesting
name
thing.
mentioned.
They changed canon so that Finrod died in the Second Age.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wait.
because so think about it. In the prologue, they say Morgoth was defeated, but Sauron remained, and my brother died hunting Sauron after Morgoth was defeated.
Oh,
Finrod died in the Second
no.
Age.
No,
Yeah.
that's not good. I missed that. Hi, Lee.
It seems that everyone I've spoken to were like, "What are you talking about?" And then I explained it, and they go, "Oh yeah."
What's this?
There's no one else. No one.
About
Lee, you
Finrod.
heard this right? That
Well, I-
Finrod died in the Second Age in the show.
No, I never picked up on that either.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. I was
I'm
explaining to
gonna
you
have to
guys.
I'm gonna
rewatch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
That's-
rewatch it to see. It's really about language
Yeah.
there, but
Hmm.
The implication to
That
me
is
was
a
that Finrod died in the
semantics
second age.
argument for sure.
Yeah.
That's
First-
interesting.
First, we all get to introduce ourselves.
Yes.
Lee's just joined us, so please introduce your beautiful self.
Thank you, Andy, for helping me with my hostess duty.
Podcasting pro.
That's my job.
Lee, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm Silmarillion on TikTok, and I'm absolutely shattered. But yeah, I'm here. I literally have just got home after the journey back up from
Oh
London.
my god.
how long was the
Wow.
journey?
2.5 hours on the train and then half an hour drive.
Okay.
So long enough.
Yeah.
Long enough.
England, guys, in England, that's long. That's a long
That-
journey.
that's
long.
2.5
Yeah, I
hours
know.
on the train is far. That is
Yeah.
far.
Here for us, that's a long way. That's like the other end of the country.
Finrod died in the second age, right?
Yeah, that's where we were.
Apparently, yeah.
I don't
I
think it's
got-
my reading. I think the implication is that that's what happened. I don't know if it was
But what would that?
intentional, but
Here's a question. Why? Like that? Or you're about to.
I don't
maybe
think it was
Wow.
intentional. I think it's just the way it worked out. Is that the story they wanted to tell was Finrod died hunting Sauron, and Galadriel is now seeking revenge, and she's completing her brother's quest. But for
Okay.
him to die hunting Sauron after Morgoth is defeated,
Yeah, so
the
it was
second age ends when
specifically.
Morgoth is defeated.
But Morgoth gets
The first
defeated like
stage.
a couple of times. Like
No,
No,
but
yeah,
the
but his-
ultimate sort of
But
end
his
of first stage
full
defeat.
his full out the door of night is at the end
Yeah.
of the first
Well,
stage.
And
like
they don't
Right.
talk
left
about
over
all of his
Sauron.
previous falls. They only talk about his exiling into the void.
I say we hold off on this just because, like,
Mhm.
I
though
know,
you just saw it,
right?
I can't remember too well. I would rather rewatch the show and then we could like bring up this point and be like, hey, we had discussed this and maybe we get back to it. Cause like that's a really huge implication, actually.
Mm.
It changes a lot
is.
of stuff.
It
Like,
it is.
I mean,
but
they
the thing-
changed enough about him as it is, and that's
Right.
just-
it's not even so
Right.
much that like they changed. They just like, there's so much admitted about him. It's just like everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's like, he's a
that's also
dude, he
something.
talks like.
like
That's
I
that's a
don't know
good
if you
point.
I don't know if you guys have mentioned this yet, but I know for me it was like watching the prologue bit, and she's like, "Oh yeah, and all the elven lord swore an oath, and we travelled across to Middle Earth," and I was just like, "Oh, okay, Helcaraxe never happened then."
Yep.
It's like
But that's like specifically Silmarillion material. They can't use it, which I
I know
understand. It's like,
it just seemed so jarring for me for them to just say all the elves sailed over to Middle Earth. It was like so weird.
that's what
Yeah.
I was bringing up at first, where they like the swan paper boat and the redheaded kid throwing rocks at it. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this to
Oh,
us? Like, are you
yeah,
just doing this for fun?
we
And then like
saying about
Galadriel's
that
fighting you.
earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Galadriel's arguing with you because like she's related to the Teleri. This is messed up.
Now, I think
Yeah.
we're all bringing up an interesting point of there are so many changes to the law. There are so many differences they've made, and it's to the sense of, to me, it's which changes are like, sure, you can make it, it doesn't matter. You need it for the story, you need to change that for story, or
Yep.
you're omitting bits and pieces, sure. To me, so I don't mind almost all of the law changes. I can be like, it's the show. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. The only law change that I don't like, because I feel that it was done, it was a contrivance to make a story plot line happen,
Mm.
is Gil-galad sending Galadriel. Gil-galad having the
Ugh.
ability to send the elves back to Valinor.
We're all in agreement that
the-
that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was the one that
And
made me salty.
It was, yeah, it was
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
only done so that Galadriel would then be on the sea and meet
Yeah.
Halbrand and then end up
Yeah.
in Valinor.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see any other
Like,
reason why he would just
I
send them
kind
back.
of, I kind of picked up from the trailers that they were going to have it that Galadriel was traveling back west, because obviously they
Mhm.
showed her in the swan boat and stuff,
Mhm.
and I hated it in the trailer, and I was like, how are they going to be working this? And then the way that they worked it, I hated. But that whole thing with Gil-galad and that weird ceremony and the arms outstretched, and it was all like, I was cringing at that. It was so like,
It was it didn't work.
really?
That's so
It didn't
Okay,
work
on
for
the
me.
boat, or are you talking about when they were like getting crowned by Gil-galad?
Oh yeah,
or-
sorry. It was
The
the earlier
crown.
bit when when he's going on about how he's giving them this special prize of going home,
Yeah.
and he's like got
No,
his
that was
arms
all
out, and
trash.
it was
I
just,
did not like
oh, it
that
was
ceremony.
terrible. It was
The-
terrible.
The boat for me parts of it worked for sure.
Yeah.
Also,
I thought it was
It
going back
looked
to Valinor
beautiful.
was beautiful.
I think the boat
Yeah.
looked beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought obviously it's not canon, but the song that just comes out of your heart, that felt very well.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
kind of canon, actually.
Yeah, it's
It-
not
it
not.
fits. I can be
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure, that happened.
It's
Hopefully it
Yeah.
happens.
canon
I mean, people
adjacent
sing all the
anyway.
time, like
Yes.
Sam and Sir
Well,
Thumblow just
no,
start singing random
even
songs.
more than that, like
Song is literally the fabric of the world.
quite
It-
literally. But
Yeah.
Galadriel says to Legolas to fear the sound of the sea because it will and so that was like a nice interpretation of that,
Mm.
right? So like
Yeah.
There's
I
also
saw
the,
that as
there's
kind of
also
a
the
nod.
thing
No,
about
I-
how the music of the Ainur still exists in the sound of the ocean. It's
Yeah,
just
I
that
think that's more
mortals
relevant.
can't hear it properly,
Yes.
but elves
Right.
can. So it was like that's what we were hearing. Almost.
I thought that aspect was great.
Beautiful.
And
The
the-
outstretched arms was a little weird and like undressing them and all of that.
Yeah, the weird like I hate the veiled female servant.
Yeah.
That was
that's
weird. I didn't like that
strange.
aspect.
Mhm.
It's a
That's
weird
just-
choice.
Hate that. All of
I
it,
was like,
and-
wait, why are they there if they're not? If this is a reward, why
Exactly,
are they there?
exactly.
I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
My only
Exactly.
thing I could think up with that, because yeah, Annick said this earlier. My only thing with that is if those women are somehow like that's their job to be on the boats going back and forth to do like the ceremonial taking the armor off, because otherwise for me if those women are going back to Valinor itself and it's this special and amazing an event for them too, but they're spending it taking someone else's armor off,
Right.
that's a bit messed up.
Yeah.
But
That's
so
why the whole idea of Gil-galad sending them back doesn't work for me, because why are those women going back as well, or is it just the
Yeah.
9? And also, if he
Yeah.
can send them back, then why isn't he sending why isn't he just saying who wants to go back? Or
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
of you can
I
go
hope
back.
that they say, yeah, it's interesting
because it
to use it
implies
as a
that he's there
reward.
for anyone else who wants to go back. He is actively stopping them from doing it. If he
Right.
has the power to let them, it means he's also not letting them.
Correct.
And yeah, that's messed up.
Well,
Or
it's the
the
callback
implication-
to Amon, like that happens after the War of Wrath. It's just completely ruined. And there's a lot of things that
Yeah,
were okay, like seeing the veil open up was cool, the singing was fine, yes, the music of the Ainur and the sea and such. Other aspects, I don't know, but like the whole thing with that aspect, there is no point between like Linden being formed. Like I'm pretty sure Linden was formed at the end of the first stage already. Like it was already starting to be formed, and then when everything occurred, like it established as the premier Elvish kingdom, right? I forget if that's the case. I can't remember the exact date Linden.
I don't
started.
remember because it's in
To the
what was-
gateway.
Yeah, go ahead.
it's in
But,
it's in what was Assyrian, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Which is what someone pointed out to me, and it was a fair point about my
Yeah.
complaint about Lindon being all forested instead of. Well, that was something I was happy about. So yeah, Lindon's all forested, and I'm like about that. But at least Aregion, I was like, there it
Oregon.
is. There's
Yeah.
my Eldarine architecture. I'm
Yes.
happy. At least I get one city.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
cool to
agreed with
see.
that. Yep.
And I almost wonder if they're doing that to kind of show a difference. I'm just
Yeah.
between how Gil-galad is going to be and how Celebrimbor is going to turn out to be.
I think that's it's the
Yeah.
city of elven smiths, so they're like it looks different.
According
but
to
it's
Appendix
Well, I'm also
B-
just thinking about like whenever our boy Sauron does show up, like
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I don't know if they're
Spoilers.
gonna do the thing where he actually does try to go with Gil-galad first, and like you know what I mean? It's gonna I think
Yeah.
some stark lines are gonna start to be drawn between
Yeah.
like the different like sects of elvish settlements, and how
Mhm.
they approach things. So the
Yeah.
architecture might be our
See,
first clue.
I think just because it seems strange to us, because obviously we know like Celebrimbor and Gil-galad and everyone, they're all Noldor. Whereas
Mhm.
like
Right.
we're seeing, I think of it as like the Noldor tend to live in cities, and then you've got more like the Sindar and the Sylvan Elves are like, well, literally the Sylvan Elves are the Wood Elves.
Yeah.
But it's like they're drawing this like, well, but they basically thrown any concept of Noldor, Sindar, Sylvan out the window, and all the elves are united under this
Yes.
one elven king.
Mhm.
Did not
Which
love
is-
that.
Is
All right,
another,
so
yeah.
Gil-galad,
I
I
think
believe,
that's-
at the beginning of the second age is described as having like a huge kingdom. So I didn't have like a huge issue with that, but
There
it's
are
the
still the
issue.
Sindar the
Of course.
king,
But
Sindar
the
kingdom. So
Sildar are still under the rule of Orifer, right?
I'm
In the
just talking about
second movie.
Yeah.
Eriador, fairly, like,
Oh,
just
okay, yeah.
Eriador itself.
okay, but like
But I'm saying
I think it's
so
just
Arandir
because of
and
the
the
yeah.
With Arondir.
Arandir
Yeah.
and the other elves have like, are they like, they're told, they got instruction from the High King.
Yeah, oh,
The
that's
war is
Yeah.
over,
that's
Belly
but
And
like,
it's like
That's
they are
weird.
not
Wouldn't be
under
under
the
control of-
jurisdiction of Gil-galad.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I
did
think they're
not love that.
streamlining and sort of cutting Orifer and Thranduil and like all of that. stuff.
But,
Which is
Yeah.
Well,
surprising
we'll
because
see.
people,
weird.
yeah.
but
because
I
I
do
would say
love
you wouldn't
what is
root for them.
happening with Arondir and Bronwyn.
Oh yes,
I
yes,
do.
I do
Yes.
love that.
Can I just say
storyline.
one
I
more
love
thing
that.
before we move on to that? Is
Yeah.
that I get why from like the what term do you use? Because they're not filmmakers, the show
Showrunners.
Showrunners.
From the perspective of that, I understand why they're like streamlining the elves into one sort of
Yeah.
mold. But as someone for whom the differences between the elves is such a big part, the elves becoming just kind of like a more homogenous group, I really don't like it. Like I like that there are these differences in the cultures.
Yeah.
To me, the delineation is going to come from stylistic things like Arondir's armor, for example, and the architecture differences, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be implied versus explicit.
Yeah, that's true.
And so
True.
we have to get
However-
used to implied versus explicit because that's hard. And Peter Jackson did that similarly. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if that will always be true. If the,
Right.
because I like maybe they're just gonna set it up like this for now so that it's like okay, like they're all united or
That's
whatever.
kind of
But
what I was thinking
and
too.
then they're gonna start introducing these differences because I'm also gonna start, I think, based on what we've seen so far with Arondir and Bronwyn's storyline, I feel like we're gonna start seeing this front, if you will, and people like actually being like, yeah, there is fucking evil, like we have shit to do, and then Galen, maybe the way that they're portraying what's going on is gonna be like, no, there's no.
No, but except he did acknowledge that it was there, and he tells
Yeah.
Elrond that the
But he
reason
won't
he's-
acknowledge to the others.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
but he
won't
does
admit to the
know.
others, yeah.
No,
He does
he
know.
knows it's there.
Yeah,
Which is
so
strange
it's
then why he is recalling them if he actually admits that he knows it is there. Why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Like Aranian,
See,
what
this
are you
is-
doing, man?
yeah.
Mhm.
I almost
is
wonder if
what
that's where
I-
they're gonna try to show like how like Galadriel does admittedly look very young, but she is definitely not. And we know that Morvid Clark knows that. And she's she's like balancing that like that ability to be ancient, but also not knowing everything. But at the same time, I think at some point it's gonna show that like she's the one with all that she's got like an upper hand in a way. At least I hope so. And that like it's gonna be like, dude,
Mm.
what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. I just don't
think-
want them to portray Gil-galad as
Yeah, I don't know.
like
Inept.
a weak.
This is
Yeah.
why I said that
Yeah,
the elves feel like the weakest. The elves, especially the elves of Linden, that storyline feels like the weakest part of the show to me right now, and it feels off.
I think
Like
that's fair.
everything else feels like Middle
agree
Earth and
with
like
that.
fits in. I think the
Yeah.
elves of Linden and the Gil-galad stuff doesn't to me right now. And that's
Yeah.
I
feel
mean
like-
that's
what if
something
that's
that
more
could change over
intentional?
the episodes, but
Like,
it doesn't.
that's
It
more
doesn't.
intentional.
It doesn't say it right. Yeah, but it's like
Where
there were better ways they could have done that stuff. I think.
I agree, but
Mhm.
Gil-galad is a huge part of the Second Age. I mean, he is who goes to war fairly, like, well, Rhaegon and then Gil-galad go to war with Sauron
Mhm.
first, and then Numenor comes, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like they're downplaying Gil-galad as more of this, like, not nefarious king, but, you know, someone who assumes he knows better because he is the High King. And I
Mm,
think it's really just kind of stupid to be that way because it's like,
Yeah.
why does
Yeah.
he have to be displayed as like, you know, this almost pretentious individual who thinks he knows better than someone like,
Yeah.
you know, Galadriel who's seen the trees.
Why do they have to make Gil-galad look bad in order to make Galadriel seem better?
Right.
And also the fact it was the
Yeah.
fact that it was it was Gil-galad who had the friendship with the kings of Numenor.
True.
That's what I'm
And-
saying. And it's like,
yeah.
are they setting up like some thing where, you know, it's so difficult because we have to see the third episode.
I
and
know
here's
we
why.
still don't know that much.
Right.
Because we need to see Numenor. We need to see the deal with Palantir. We need to see what Tarmiriel's up to, what our Pharazon's up to, what the Lords of Adunian are up to, you know? Like, we have to talk about this stuff because it's so important, because after there's Tar Ministar and everything that goes down. And obviously, like, they're condensing all that. That's gone. Like, so we're not going to see anything about, you know, Ardarion, Meneldor, or Minister. None of them. Forget about them. That's at least how I'm taking it. So they have to explain.
They don't have the rights to that anyway.
No, well, no, yes, technically they could mention those characters because it's in.
Yeah, we've got all the names.
Yeah,
we've got names.
He
And then
dropped
they have
those
second age
names.
events. They have annals in the appendix. I was just looking at it today of different events within the second age that like refer to war, what goes down, who took the reign, etc. And even I think even how they like left the reign, if they like held on or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I have to reread it. But point being is that, like, you know, they could have gone down that pathway and mentioned that like Sauron is a continued issue now, but it wouldn't have worked either. They wouldn't have had a conflict set up for Galadriel. They wouldn't have an overall like point of like end point for everyone. So that's the only reason why I can see why they could do something like that. I just don't like it. So you gotta wait for that Numenor episode though.
The only thing though, again, and we talked about this before Lee, you joined, but again, this is already information overload for people who do not know any of the canon. So some of this stuff just might come up later in a way we would have done it differently. So for example, we've not actually seen Numenor yet. We've seen I don't even know if we know who that person was that sees Galadriel on.
It's a Elendil the Tall.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Elendil.
There was some
but no
stuff in
confirmation. We don't know. You know, nobody.
Annex just said there's stuff in Hall Age.
There's some stuff in Hall Age.
Okay, cool.
My problem is that like, what about Vignalande? You know, what happened to the Numenorian Haven? You know, like, do we just skip that whole thing? Is it not important anymore? The interactions with Middle Earth men don't matter anymore. And like that stuff is like good substance. And this is one aspect where I'm like, why? Maybe they want to draw it out a little more, but also it changes how Numenorians are seen in Middle Earth. Are they just everyone forgot about Numenor?
The way it's being perceived right now, it
crazy.
seems like it's this insular, forgotten about place. Like
Galadriel is silly to me because
which is weird. Yeah.
What about the Black Numenorians? What about the Nine? Who are going to be the lords if not like lords of the Numenor, lords of Middle Earth? But like,
I doubt that's what they're doing. I think that would be really
not.
weird if that's what they're doing, because that's like a huge departure from the story.
Yeah,
that's a complete departure from the story. I just think that they're talking about too many kingdoms.
Yeah.
So they had to cut something from the first 2 episodes, and they were like, Numenor is going to be so huge throughout all 5 seasons. We're going to let it sit and let that one go a little slower. And
it's not a problem with that. It's the problem of the time compression, actually. This is all a time compression problem where like they need to justify everything in between why they would even have this whole event occur. Because if they're just trying to push it through like a 10-year period where Sauron rises and the War of the Last Alliance happens, it's going to be problematic over 5 seasons.
It is, but we just don't know that that's what they're doing, again, because we haven't seen Numenor. So like, I don't even really see the point in assuming how they're going to play this stuff until we see how they're laying it out. For example, is Tarmiriel's father alive still? Presumably, because she's the Queen Regent.
Yeah. She said that he is. Yeah. Okay. Now, things that we did like. I loved everything that happened in the Southlands. I think it was so well done. I think
new characters are the strongest part of the show.
Are great. Yeah. I think the whole idea of the elves keeping a watch and humans being angry about it. And Lee and I were talking earlier, and we were saying that because we know that, like, spoilers, I guess, I don't know if this crowd needs spoilers for it, but that region is Mordor, right? So we know what
they've
happens
released
to
a map.
We know.
I've seen a map.
It's northern, isn't it? It's what will become.
So they were saying, yeah, they were waiting for their true king, and we know that Sauron is sort of the deceiver, and he will come and he will be like, and he now has good reasons to like convince the people, hey, the elves are terrible, join me instead. Because the people already hate the elves for good reason.
Yeah, we talked about that in New York.
I like that. So that whole Southlands thing to me was one of the most pleasant surprises because it was like just an original thing. It's in all the promos and stuff. It's been the one I've been least interested in because it's like I don't know any
exact same.
So it was such a pleasant surprise how how much I felt drawn into that story and how compelling it was. Yeah, I really am so intrigued to see what they're doing with that and how that goes. I think they've done that brilliantly.
Can we talk about
And
the orc in the kitchen?
Oh man,
That sequence was amazing.
Yeah,
so
Wow.
good.
yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I
oh
jumped.
wow.
I
Yeah,
jumped.
Same.
I knew the scare was coming, but I jumped.
can confirm.
And then the way they both went at the orc
Yes.
and just
Yes.
it was brutal.
I
it
love it. I
was
was
kinda
talking
brutal.
about this with Josh, but just how in, and I am gonna make a reference to Peter Jackson, but in Lord of the Rings, we've always seen orcs, you know, we just take them out. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Peter had too many of them.
Yep.
There's too many of them. You
Mm.
got to take them all out. They get no survivors. You know what I mean? And with this, it
Worse
was
than
like,
Star Trek red shirts.
Yes.
yeah. But with this, it was like, no,
Good analogy.
these
Yeah.
guys are hard. It's not.
Yeah, like
so
they're
easy.
actually like good fighters. They
Yes.
know what they're doing.
Yes.
And they're hardy.
Yeah,
Like
and
he
these are-
took
Yeah.
being choked. Like that was insane.
stabbed in multiple places. Exactly. It was
yeah.
insane. It was great.
And it's the idea that like these people have that, you know, for 1,000 years they have not seen a creature like this, because
Yes.
you know, like
Mhm.
people of Rohan and like Gondor have seen orcs,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but these people in this village have never seen an orc. So when this
Mhm.
monster shows up, and I really love the way they filmed it with like it had a mask on, so we weren't really sure what we were looking at, and it was like
Yeah.
this horror.
They had
feeling was
the like
so well done.
the claws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Loved
Yeah,
that.
that was so well done. I really like that. Yeah.
And like the
what do we
whole
think
bit
about the
with
sword?
Arandi, it's sorry, I've seen about Arandi when he's in the tunnel and he can hear the noises.
Mhm.
It was like some proper like I don't know, it almost reminded me of the first Alien film when they're in the vents and
Yes.
Yes.
I
like,
felt
it was-
claustrophobic.
And that was
Yeah,
one
I
thing
did
that
too.
they
Yeah, when
talked
he's
about.
stuck there and he's trying to drag himself forward. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
god, the
"Oh,
rats.
And the rats.
Oh
But
yeah.
one thing that the showrunners talked about after our screening thing was how they were kind of doing these little homages to all these other films about how that they loved. You know, they're like, oh, they are like pieces of art or TV and film and other directors. You know, they were just like, we're gonna take like here's a little bit of oh, you know, like the birds, and here's a little bit of like this and that, you know.
Mhm.
And so I love that idea. I mean, I could totally see them taking inspiration from Alien.
Yeah,
or something.
it was
Same.
really
It
really
was a
good.
great sequence.
Yeah,
was.
I
I'm really
think-
excited for what's happening to Arandir after this, because
Yeah.
there's some stuff
Yeah.
at whole age, but also it's looks like he's gonna
like,
he's gonna have a
I
tough
also-
time.
I also just want to say about Arandir and Bronwyn's relationship. It's been so subtle, such tiny little things,
Yes.
but it's already
sweet.
so effective. I'm like, I'm there for them already.
Yep.
And
And I
when
love
when
that
she
they've
took
talked
his
about how
hand,
it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Like they've been like,
Yeah.
no, this is you're not supposed to be doing this, and around here's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they literally called out the criticism that we've been hearing about it from the
Yeah.
time they announced it, which is there's
Mhm.
only supposed to be 3. Well,
Yeah.
at that time, 2.
Too. It's like there's not going to be a third. This isn't going to work, and the
Yes.
tragedy is that we know it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. They talked about that in our not that they were talking about suspense with the thing I'm about to bring up, but the showrunners brought up that there's 2 kinds of suspense where the audience doesn't know and the audience does know, and how those both build tensions in different ways, and that works with romance too and tragedy.
Yeah.
Hey man,
Do
What's up,
better,
Willie?
do better in the house.
Yo, what up?
Hey,
I'm at work, so forgive me.
cool.
Oh, let me
What do
change
you
my
think? What do you
shirt,
think of the
man.
show?
It's supposed to be-
Honest opinion.
Huh?
Honest opinion. What do you think of the show?
Hold on one second.
So I'm trying to think. Do you guys think it's orcs that grabbed Arondir, or
In
no?
the trailer, I
Yeah.
thought it was Ents,
Yeah,
but it was
because
orcs.
it's
Yeah, it
those
was
like,
orcs. Yeah, it was orcs.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got like the same clawed hands as the one that.
Oh,
went
is this
into
how he ends
Bronwyn
up in the
goes,
pit?
yes.
Yeah,
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
think
think
so.
so.
There
I
we
think
go.
so.
There we go.
Well,
Yeah.
unless it's not, because I also don't know if Bronwyn is captured with him or not when he's in the pit. You know what I mean? Does he
I
get
don't think
does he get
Oh.
captured
I
and
don't
then
think
get
so.
back
No, I
with
think-
her, and then because we
I
see
think
him in the
or,
woods?
like I think he gets captured, escapes,
I
and
think
like
that's when he like
catches up
escaped.
there.
And
Yeah, I think the
Okay,
woods is
cool.
later
he has
stuff.
to
Yeah,
change
woods
it
is
on him.
further down.
When he's in the woods, he has the chain still on him from when he escapes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't notice
He
the
grabs the
chain.
arrow out of
So
the
yeah,
air
you're
and
right.
shoots it
You're
back.
right.
I hope
Yep.
that's season 3 or episode 3. We get to see that next. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorite promo scenes from
I'm
all the
ready.
teasers.
I'm
Same.
ready
I
for
was
like
like,
an arrow
okay,
catch.
they're doing
That's
this
super
so cool.
Elven.
Yeah. So
In the
Elvish of me,
same
like, just grabbing
vein
that.
as
Who here
or
went to Comic-Con?
just
just
Annex.
you two.
It's just I
Oh,
think.
well, never mind then.
Way to
You
rub
can
it
tell us about how
in.
you can tell
We've
us
seen
about
some
how
stuff.
Man.
Yeah. No, this is a recorded. I don't know if we can.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
Secret.
We'll
I'm
do
gonna
it
secret.
later when we stop the recording.
Yeah. When we start
it's,
the
I know you had your strong feelings about the show. My honest opinion on the show is I really like it. I think it was awesome. Because I'm separating two things.
Mm-hmm.
I know a shit ton. I know you know a shit ton. I know Lee and many of you guys, we know a shit ton. But this is the problem I used to do to myself when I was watching the movie. I used to be like, that's wrong. And then everybody would love it. And I'd be bitter. And everybody would love it. And then it become a beloved thing. I used to hate Arwen replace Glorfindel. I used to hate that shit. And I became miserable and salty about it. And it really doesn't affect anything. And it works out fine. And it doesn't hurt anything, and now it's become a beloved thing to where people who don't even know the difference, you have to tell them that that's not right. You know what I'm saying? But nobody says anything about it because it actually just works out. So I took that stuff and I just said, you know what? As long as it works for what they're trying to do, and it bothers me. Don't get me wrong, it bothers me. I don't like how they were treating Galadriel at all. I don't like that they changed Finrod's story. I don't like that Celebrimbor didn't call Feanor his grandfather and he was calling him Feanor. I've never heard that in my life. Somebody called their grandfather by their name. If I called my dad by his real name, I got slapped. That's 100% fact. I'm being dead serious. I'm not making that up.
I know.
Like that's not a thing. Like you don't be like, you know, my dad's name was Frank, but when my teacher would ask me what's my dad's name, it's Dad. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know his real name.
I love when kids do that.
It's a respect
my
thing, you know
my
what I'm
niece
saying?
does
So-
it all the time to my brother. Calls him Johnny by his name just to wind him up. 'cause
That's
she
so
knows he
funny.
hates him.
Well, I have a reverse
I'm like
story.
I'm
When
a
one time I
junior,
was-
so like everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Pete. Your dad's name's Pete. Yeah, Pete. I'm like, all right, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
No, my dad's name is Dad.
Yeah.
Just
Duh.
pops for me. So
Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
I think Willie, you're right. There are so many changes where I'm like, it's fine. I get it. I get why they did this. I get why that's changed, and like that's insignificant. Like doesn't matter. It's like you could do it either way, and I don't really care. The change, yeah. But I think we were saying earlier, the one change where I was like, that doesn't work because it changes so many other things, and I think it could have been done differently. Was Gil-galad sending them back?
Yeah.
That's the only one where I was like,
so far I don't
that's
like
the only one where I was
Gil-galad.
like, I don't like it.
I don't like
No.
him. I don't like
Yep.
how he's acting. I don't like none of that. But what I'm assuming is because just off the strength of his character and the reverence that is sung over Gil-galad and in the Lord of the Rings itself, I think he's going to have a change of heart, and I think they're going to work towards him building to be like the Gil-galad that we know. So I'm going to give it a chance, but I absolutely hated that. And after talking to Ben King, what's his name? Ben
Walker.
Benjamin Walker. I was looking forward to seeing him the most. But then when I saw, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, that's an interesting point because you can tell in interviews that he gets it, right?
He gets his character for sure.
He gets his character. So I was like, what is happening? This isn't his character.
I think that's another example of the thing, Willie, before you joined us. We were just talking about like there's too much information for people who don't know any of the lore. So I really think I hope that we will grow to love Gil-galad because
we think about that too. Off that point is that like this is the High King of the Noldor, the High King of the elves currently based off the show in Middle Earth in like Eriador.
Yeah.
You need to establish a man like in a way where you understand that he has complete power over the whole situation of Lindon. And I guess like I don't. Yeah, they did do that, but now they're showing it that he could send away someone like Galadriel. Like, you know who this person is. Anyone who's watched the Peter Jackson movies will immediately know who Galadriel, Lady of White is.
Sure.
And so, like, I don't know. I don't agree with it.
It's not that he couldn't send her away. I apologize for cutting you off because that was rude.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, that's cool.
It's not that he couldn't send her away. It's the way they was talking to her. And if you're going to send her away, you could do it in a certain manner with respect because she's Galadriel. And
Let me-
it's like, okay, well, Galadriel's a princess. No, she literally is a different type of royalty. If every single person in her family is a prince or princess or king or queen, every single person, and it's
Yeah.
like she is different. Like, and her grandfather was the first High King, right? Then her uncle, then her cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just ridiculous amounts of things that, like, even her mother is a princess. Then her grandmother is literally the sister of the High King of all the elves. Like, it's like so many things that's where it's like,
Right.
I
she's
completely
very
agree
different.
with you.
Yeah.
I
We were
completely agree with you about this.
We were
It's just
literally saying this earlier today, me and Alex. We were saying the same thing. It's like even the other elves in her squad, they talk to her in a way as
so
if she's
disrespectful.
just another elf. And it's
Can
like,
I just interject really quick,
Crazy,
because
yeah.
I know some people are gonna have to go, and we haven't talked about dwarves or Harfoots yet. So I want us to be able to
My
do
favorites.
that.
But let's
favorites.
just,
Love them
Yes.
both.
I think we're all settled that like Galadriel was mistreated by our boy Gil-galad.
Yes.
The whole
Yeah.
There needs to be
Linden
some
situation is
correction.
weird.
Yeah,
and,
I think we
I'm
can
not a
agree
fan
with
of
that.
it yet.
You know, throw
Yeah.
some respect on that
Although-
name, you know?
I will
So-
say with the whole Linden situation is that because we were all expecting to be seeing the Galadriel in the show to turn into the Galadriel of the Third Age, and like
Right.
the Elrond of the show will turn into Elrond of the Third Age. I
No,
think
I
what we
wasn't
weren't
expecting that.
expecting is the Gil-galad at the start is going to turn into the Gil-galad who leads the Five Army, not the Five Armies, the Last Alliance.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
he's going to start out as I think we're not supposed to like what he's doing. There's
Exactly.
some stuff the Elrond does where I'm like,
Just-
I don't
clearly.
like that, and I don't think that
The
I'm
delivery is
supposed
the
to like
problem
that.
though. To like how they're deciding
Yeah.
to do it. This is a
It
showrunner
was just a
choice. We
little
all don't
bit
agree
much.
with it too much. But
Mm.
moving
I
on,
could see him
hey,
being
the
my bad,
stranger.
go ahead.
Harfoots. The Harfoots.
Harfoots, the
Harfoots.
stranger.
Harfoots,
They came
the
on screen
stranger.
and I instantly went, they are my favorite people and I love them
Yes.
forever.
I
Yeah.
thought I was
They
gonna
all
hate him.
have
I'm
a
gonna
stump
be
in their
100%
hair.
honest. I was
Same,
like, you know
same.
what? The only mention of hobbits being in the Elder Days was in the prologue concerning hobbits and Lord of the Rings. How are they gonna justify this shit? And honestly, it
Yeah.
worked. I was like, okay, Harfoot.
They're
They
not
got up and I-
bothering with
They
They
nobody.
came out of their hiding and I went,
That's so
when
cute.
Nori
It was
and
That
Eleanor,
felt-
Brandyfoot.
Eleanor
that
and
felt-
Poppy went looking for berries.
Yes.
that's
And
Merry
the
and Pippin.
oversized berries. Oh, I love
And the
these.
oversized rabbit.
okay, and like,
I love them.
and
Please.
I think Eleanor Nori, she has to be like an ancestor of the Tooks, right?
Oh,
like, she's
yeah.
so adventurous
Good.
and going out there,
Easy.
and like
Easy.
her and Poppy and the kids going to find the berries, and it's Merry and Pippin stealing vegetables.
And then there's that
Right.
instant
All over
change
again.
where the wolf shows up and you're like, it's all happy and it's joyful, but then there is an
Yeah.
undercurrent of danger to that whole situation.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
the wolves could destroy them, and they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, we have to
Yeah,
leave. We have to leave
absolutely.
right now."
And
Which the hobbits of the Shire don't have to
the
deal with.
Mm.
humans can as well. That's why they've got this whole system of camouflaging themselves
Mhm.
whenever humans are coming past, because
Love
clearly
it.
these are a danger to
Can I
them.
point out something that's off topic for a second that somebody pointed out to me that I didn't notice at first? And
Okay.
it's just really cool, and I hope you guys noticed it. When Galadriel has the boat in Valinor and the kids are messing with her,
Mhm.
some of the kids have red hair.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were.
Probably
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Heavy.
kinslaying. We
we-
were saying, yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah, that was
probably
definitely
the Seven
not
Sons of
lost on
Fëanor.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
that
those
is
are the
a
Sons of
baby
Fëanor, yeah.
Fëanor.
Probably,
Because,
probably like
yeah, 'cause I
Maybrook,
was-
and probably
Yes.
Maglor.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
I was watching,
It
I
was
was
my
like,
first
what are
thought,
the
but then I
kids?
was like, no, he'd be well older than that by now. It can't be that.
I'm thinking
But-
that too, but I think they played with
think
the
it-
ages because I don't think Finrod
Yeah,
is that much older.
yeah.
than
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
How many of them were there that were picking on her? Don't
Oh,
say there were
God.
I
7.
think there were 6,
there was 7.
maybe 7. There was
If
7.
there was
There
I
seven,
probably
thought it
were
was
seven.
5 or
Guys
6.
know
So
Yeah, I thought it was 5 or 6, maybe.
We got
Yeah.
to count. We got to count. We got to
Yeah, we're
make
gonna
this
have to count them.
Yeah.
tomorrow. I mean,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they definitely threw that in there.
That's so cool.
yeah.
But-
That's what I was pointing on. They had their own mini kinslaying. You know, they took that swamp
Yeah.
boat, they slashed
Yeah,
that shit.
so much
Galadriel was like,
stuff.
It was
a
an
kid.
Easter egg for us.
kid.
Mhm.
Look, the swan boat. Like, come on, like, come on.
This is messed up.
That shit was really dope.
But Nick,
And
I
it,
know you want to talk about dwarves. So
Yeah,
I'm throwing it to
so-
you.
All right, dwarves.
Well,
Durin
so
and Disa.
the only thing I'll say about Harfoots, just to interject there, is that was the part that felt the most Tolkien to me. That felt like reading the first 4 chapters of Fellowship. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was like, oh, I'm right back in the Shire. Oh, this is amazing. Even though we're not in the Shire, I know.
They
But,
were so like they had so much hobbity behavior, but it did
Yes.
also feel like what would evolve into the Shire. It was just brilliant. It was
felt
so well done.
anthropological in that way. Like I can see where they are going with this. Like thousands of years later, we will get. Oh man, we'll get Bilbo good morning Gandalf on the stoop of his door. Yeah, it's oh man, that's so well done.
Real.
Anyway, the dwarves. So good. What did you guys think about Celebrate? Well, obviously they have to compress time with travel, and I'm okay with how they did it, honestly, like going over the map.
It was a bit weird.
It was
I mean,
weird.
they didn't even show
thoughts.
up in like traveling clothes. They were just like
Yeah,
in the same
second
outfits.
thoughts.
Like, yo,
That was weird
They
to
were
me.
just in a limbo. It's like they've just gone for a stroll down the street to their friend's house.
They went to buy some milk at the shop down the street.
And when everyone is like, I'll say, give me 3 days, and like he's gonna just walk back to Regia. Is that what he's just gonna walk?
I know. I was like,
I guess
horses just walk back.
in all fairness, Holland's right next to Moria to the west of it. In all fairness, like
It's
but like I know, but like the way they did it was so
place.
choppy. The editing was so off. Like Linden, like okay, we could cover Linden to Aragon, but them dudes came out like they like walked out their door. And they were at Moria. Like,
literally they walk around a corner.
Yeah, it's like literally if they just put in the background like some horses and maybe a couple of guards or something.
Like,
that would have been different.
These two lords
they just walk down the road to go and see their mate.
that's a great point.
Clearly, the
Be
door
back by dinner.
It's so funny. Like they're like randomly in the side of a mountain. It felt very like it felt very Princess Bride-ish.
Yes,
I'm okay. I love
Yes.
The Princess Bride. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite books and
You know
movies
what's
of all
funny?
time.
When
I love that movie.
Elrond is walking up and explaining to Celebrimbor the welcome that they're about to get, is that not Gimli?
Yes.
Like
I thought that too.
specifically
That was exactly Gimli.
PJ.
That was exactly
He mentioned salted pork and
And like fires and stuff.
malt beer or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah,
I was like,
Absolutely.
haha, yeah.
I thought that was a cute nod for sure.
it's like,
And
I
then,
understand
okay.
the reference.
So back to
now
the
what Elrond does inside, once he's inside, I have some conflicting thoughts, and I've spoken to people who are like, I don't like what happened inside, what Elrond does once he's
real
inside.
quick
I don't
before
like what
we
he
get
does.
inside though. Back to the movie references that we're getting, movie and television shows that we're getting. I thought that the opening of the door was very Wizard of Oz, the film.
Oh, true.
Mhm.
Like opening that up, like you can't see the wizard today. Like it felt very much like that. It was, and I was like, oh, what a cute little nod. But Annex, I also agree. I thought that was.
What are we talking about specifically?
Elrond being manipulative to Durin.
Yes.
Elrond is
You're
manipulating.
You're talking like the relationship as a whole. I thought it was weird that he invoked the. Well, I don't know.
Right.
But it's a. I don't mind it because
part of the manipulation.
it's a very Ulysses Odysseus type of manipulation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
It's to a friend, like Odysseus talking to Achilles. He's manipulating him because he needs his help, but it's not in a malicious way like he does to the Cyclops. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't know. It felt not right, especially considering the way they portrayed Durin, of this like sweet guy who's like, who cares so much about this relationship, and the fact. Okay, so here's a sticking point to me, is that so Elrond goes in without any idea that Durin has his issues, and he's like, understandably so. Durin has, Durin and Elrond sees time differently. Sure, they go in, and then once Durin explains why he's mad at Elrond realizes and he genuinely apologizes, right? He's like, I'm sorry. But then they're having dinner afterwards, and Durin's, Elrond apologizes, but Durin doesn't accept, right? And then Durin says he's here because he wants something, and Elrond keeps going, no, it's not. That's not it. I'm here to just make amends with my friend, which isn't true.
That's a lie.
He does want something, and he doesn't. He just doesn't admit it until he's like,
as it's going to be, what you call it? I'm not going against what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but it's going to be beneficial for both of them. I think he's looking at it
mutually beneficial.
That's true, but
mutually
that's true. But it's still manipulation.
I know, I'm being serious because
it's still,
he knows what the dwarves bring, and then he knows, and we all know what Celebrimbor brings. So he's like,
Yeah.
this relationship is
I-
going to be mutually beneficial. And then us knowing as
It's
Lord
true.
Masters, we
That
know
is true.
it,
Yeah,
it
but
is
I just
mutually
think,
beneficial.
But that doesn't
yeah,
mean
but he
that
could
that's
go
still
about
it's
it
still
in
manipulation.
a better way. Like,
right?
so when they're on the
Oh,
lift,
yeah, you're right.
when
You're
they're
right.
on the lift, and Dorian explains to him why he's upset, and Elrond is like genuinely like, oh shit, I've messed up here. And then what he should have done is been like, I'm sorry, I did come here because I wanted your help with something, but I realize now that I've been a really bad friend and I need to make that up to you. And he should have done that, but what he did instead was keep saying, oh, I'm not here because I want something. But it's like, that's
Yeah.
literally the only reason you've come there.
There's a whole 5-minute conversation with Celebrimbor about
However,
that.
I feel
Yeah,
like
and
it's a
you're right, you're right.
common theme in Tolkien to desperately need therapy. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's on
It-
point.
Mhm.
It didn't.
That-
I just don't. That wasn't Elrond.
Mm.
For me.
It
That was
was
like not
left
Elrond
it left me
behavior.
feeling icky about Elrond, and I think that was
Yeah.
on purpose. Is that we're
Okay.
supposed to feel
Yeah.
that
Elrond is
Elrond
young.
shouldn't have
That's
done
like
that.
we're
they
talking
are
about
trying to
the
play
last-
up the Elrond
He-
as young and
yeah,
naive.
Maybe they're trying to
Elrond
play
is
up
young,
this
he
aspect
He
of
doesn't have that
Elrond
wisdom
where.
yet.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Knew better. Sorry about that.
No, Elrond doesn't have that wisdom yet, just like Galadriel does.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
if
good
we're gonna
point.
say
Also,
one
he's
for
comparing
one,
himself to
he's making
we gotta
Elrond.
say one for the other as
Yeah.
well.
Like
she's
he's
also
obviously
younger than
he
Galadriel by
compare
a
himself
lot.
to his brother, his father, Arendil. Like
And
these
to
are he
Gilgalad,
has
Yeah,
one of the
but
greatest
he
Like, he
lines
clearly
ever.
feels like the fact. So when he's sitting in the tree reading, and the weird veiled women servants come to tell him that he's not invited to the council, and it's like, this is Elrond, right? This is a lord of the elves, and he's not. And it's like he feels that he has to have a role, and he has to prove himself. And
Right.
so it's like maybe he's trying to play politician with Dorian and that manipulation thing. I still don't like it, but as we were, again, me and Nanix were saying earlier about it, is this is going to be part of Elrond's character arc, that he's going to
Mhm.
realize he doesn't need to. I was going to say to play the Game of Thrones then, but you know what I mean.
He doesn't
He
have
doesn't
to.
need to
And that's the
do
thing that-
politics.
Lee,
Like, that's
Lee,
not
you
how
don't
he
find
needs.
it funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What you say?
No, I'm done now. It's fine.
I was saying that I agree with you saying, and I don't understand why they feel this need to showcase that, oh, you're not allowed here. You're not allowed to do this. He's the heir. Like, if Gilgalad was to die while the Linden elves were still, Elrond would literally be the king of the North. He's the next in line.
Well, that's
So I don't
another thing, that they're
understand-
treating everyone
Well,
differently.
that is a good point. When they were saying, they're having a meeting with the lords. So it's Gilgalad, probably Celebrimbor, Galadriel is, who else is in that meeting that Elrond
Right.
isn't at?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
having?
Right.
I think the
Who's
point of
higher
that
than
line
him?
we were thinking was to show. I think is to show that this Elrond isn't the Elrond of the Third Age, because in the Third
Yeah.
Age, Elrond is the one who calls the meeting, right? He
Yeah.
leads the meeting, but it's sort of
Well,
signaling
It's
to the
literally
audience that,
called the
like,
Council of Elrond.
yeah. In this
I
one,
think-
they're sort
I
of
think him
signaling
and
to the audience
Gilgalad's
that there's a
relationship-
meeting happening where Elrond isn't invited. Like,
Yeah, that's weird.
so
They're
Elrond isn't
making a
there
I
point
yet.
think he's gonna
about
have to get a lot
Elrond.
more wise. I think
Mhm.
I think that's what they're building toward.
Yeah.
They're building toward things like he's gonna have to get wise. Galadriel's gonna have to get wise.
Yeah.
Gilgalad's gonna have to get more open and honest about what's really going on and
Yeah.
be the courageous
Gilgalad needs to die.
firm king that he knows. He's just
Spoilers.
trying to.
Okay.
He's kind of Denethor it. He's kind of
Yeah.
Denethor it a little bit. Like, well, it's
But I hope
peaceful,
we
like,
do
you
a
know what I mean? Like,
reversal. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
So
And it's like he needs to like learn. Hey, this is
Yeah, it's
shit
like
and fish.
they're making the point as if they are all at the beginning of their character arc now,
Yes.
and they're like
Yeah.
establishing what
Which is,
that
yeah, I
is.
mean, it's supposed to, yeah.
so
it's
I'll make
interesting to see. I'm sorry, it's one last thing. I think
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
interesting the way we've pointed out what Galadriel is doing, what Elrond is doing, what Gilgalad is doing. Celebrimbor we haven't seen enough to sort of make judgments
Oh,
about
yeah.
that yet.
Sure.
But
Not
with the
He's mad
others,
chill. He just wants to make a furnace, pretty much.
Right.
He's like, yo, I want this.
at
Yeah,
the
he's
top of
supposed
the
to-
tower, which is
Furnace.
weird,
But-
but-
by
Like-
next spring or something like that, which interesting timeline. But I think it's interesting to see elves with flaws, of elves who aren't like perfect ethereal, reach their
Yeah.
final form beings, of like Elrond when he wasn't a perfect being, Galadriel when she isn't
Mhm.
perfect yet, and
Yeah.
Gilgalad who doesn't make it into the Third Age, but in the Second Age, at the end of Second Age, he's like a great king, and it's like
Right.
Gilgalad who isn't a great king yet, who isn't a
Mm.
perfect elven king yet. I think it's
So-
interesting to see elves with flaws, and I think
So
that's
to
what
that
that's what's
point-
hitting us. Yeah.
I was just reading
Yeah.
about that in the Silmarillion, that elves, in the beginning were very haughty and like quick to action because they they really hadn't become very permanent in the world. And the same idea of like how Morgoth over time loses power as it becomes more permanent in Arda, like kind of the same concept here. Maybe we're seeing more of that like theory behind elves a little with like Celebrimbor wanting to create, Gil-galad and his absolute power and so forth, and like Elrond being more of a politician than anything. He's trying to build up himself in this new idea of like, this is the Elven Kingdom. This isn't the first age anymore.
Where he belongs to be. Hey guys, I gotta break out because I'm literally at work and I'm not even supposed to be.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
well,
good.
appreciate
Yeah, let's
you.
go speaking to you.
Yeah, no,
Hi, buddy.
I'm glad you made it for a little bit.
Thanks for coming to
All
say
right,
hi.
I hope you're feeling better, Lee. And I emailed Tyler and I'm going to talk to him about their situation and stuff. So as soon as they get back to me, I'll, we'll have our conversation. We'll have our powwow. So thank you for relaying how you felt and what we think they should have done. And I'm going to relay the same thing, and we'll have more productive conversation about it, because I don't think they purposely did it, but it's just as bad if they just weren't even thinking about it at all.
Right,
That's just
right.
bad.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that they don't do that again, but they are very mindful. I was telling Callie, they are very mindful of different things, like race and things like that, and very accommodating. So I was very surprised to hear that, and I think that it could be remedied. And I'm so sorry that you had that experience. Like I was telling them, it's no secret, you're like my favorite person on the whole thing. It just is what it is, because your lore just the way you just do your lore just literally blows me away. I think you're awesome, and I wanted you to have a great experience, and it sucks that happened. So we're gonna remedy that. You, Andy, and Callie are in such high standings that everybody else can just be jealous. Just be jealous.
I ain't jealous. I recognize. You gotta recognize.
Love you too, man.
I mean, I thought that was a favorite, but all right.
Don't
Ain't sure
know.
nobody.
Should we
Got
just
better
start
of
calling
that.
ourselves like KnewBetta's Angels now?
Yeah.
Or something?
Like Charlie.
But for real, like no,
I've got all three of you in a line right now with KnewBetta just.
Really love your
Aw.
content. You do an excellent job with your content. So just keep doing what you're doing. We'll get this all worked out. And Annex, you looked very sharp, young man. You looked very sharp the other day. I was kind of jelly that you were chilling with Anna Maria like that.
I know, that was so
dope.
cute.
That was very dope. I was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, it's a premiere. You gotta go all out, right?
True.
Let me get
I
out of here.
went for a black velvet
Yeah.
suit with a tux. Black velvet tux. In a bit.
Bye, man.
Peace.
Oh,
Oh,
And
he's
that-
getting called.
Yeah.
Okay,
I feel like you
rewinding
had a
back
thought,
to
yeah.
back to what Annex was saying. So the showrunners have told us in multiple formats, articles. I think they mentioned it in the Q&A that we saw in New York. You probably heard it in the UK too.
No, we didn't have a Q&A.
No,
We didn't have a
no.
Q&A actually.
And the first thing back in May, whenever your original 20 minutes of screening, that thing. They have to show how high things can go so that the fall feels all the better. So they're going to use characters like Elrond, Galadriel, those who make it through the fall. We have to see them, like you said, with flaws, at their lower points, so we can see them build up.
Yeah.
Because if they just started where they end up, there's no arc. There's zero arc if we see them even close to what they end up being. So I don't love that they're doing that, because it's a little ham-fisted in my opinion, but I get why they're doing it, because you have to show that tension of people growing. Because if we're just going to see a fall in 3 seasons, and we could get into assuming.
And like the way that they put it in it wasn't really a Q&A, but more like we watched them be interviewed.
That was the most whack part of the whole thing, if I can be completely honest. I felt very
Really?
like this was rehearsed.
Like, what if we had just started raising our hands like, I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
It was the same guy who
it was
interviewed
people
them.
asking them questions.
Yeah.
It was Vanity Fair.
Like, it
asking
wasn't like a fan
questions.
Q&A.
Is that who it was?
It's just
I
like
was
you
just
guys.
Yes, it was
asking.
Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
From
So
the
like
from the OG.
they probably had the questions in advance.
Yes,
Yes.
totally,
Their answers and-
totally.
Yeah.
Oh shit,
That
what
was
were we
icky.
talking about?
I think that's why our London one
Fall versus
is the
building.
one where I'm like,
Yes. Oh, so the thing that they ended up talking about was the instead of showing, I feel it wasn't a Game of Thrones reference, but maybe it was, but they were like, instead of focusing on like all the darkness, they're going to show varying levels of goodness, varying shades of good. And
and the differing types
Yes.
of good, right?
Yes.
Like they're all trying to do the good thing, but in different directions. I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. That's a
And I feel
compelling way to
like-
write a story for sure.
That's what is happening with Gil-galad, Galadriel, and
So I
Elrond
think
and
we've-
everybody.
I think we've touched points on the second episode, and just for the sake of like being that we want to talk about both episodes, we've covered the Harfoots. We haven't discussed the stranger. There was that whole scene. I don't really think we need to cover that because that was already in the trailer. We've already
Yep.
discussed it a huge amount. I think the second episode of the stranger and the Harfoots is more relevant. But
Mhm.
at the end, we see, Galadriel go to Valinor. We see the veil that Frodo describes open up, raindrops, and then what we expect, that everything turns to clear glass and a swift sunrise over a green plain. But we see Galadriel jump in, and I want to talk about my favorite part, and I don't care if it's just like
The
complete.
monster.
I think I know what you're
Yeah,
gonna say. I think I
I
know what you're
love the
gonna say.
serpent. I know it's not supposed to be there,
Yes.
but I loved it,
Mhm.
and I was like,
Oh,
about it.
I'm here for it. I
Oh,
think it's
now-
totally canon.
now-
I
totally
wanted to
cool.
see its
I have a
face.
theory about a serpent. I have a
Oh,
theory
really?
about a serpent. So, if we go by the theory that I strongly hold, and I know some people do, that Halbrand is Sauron.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Halbrand
Yeah,
is
I've
Sauron
heard
trying
that
to
too.
manipulate Galadriel. My theory is that those other people on the boat with him
Yep.
were just people that he brought along because he
Play
knew that
with.
Galadriel was going to be there. So he brought along these people to bring her up. And then as soon as he got Galadriel on the boat, he brought that sea serpent was under his control. He
Yeah.
brought the thing back. The other people are gone. He doesn't care about the rest of them. But now that he's got Galadriel, and then once he and Galadriel are back on the boat, the serpent just disappears. It never comes back.
But it better
That's
come back because I need to
crazy.
see its face.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
uh,
need
but
it.
he's just
That's
gone.
an interesting
and I have a
theory.
theory that he was controlling it.
Okay, so say that is the case, because now we're getting to the
Mhm.
second episode. So first episode ends with her finding these people
Jumping.
because she's just swimming across the ocean.
Yeah.
Why not?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy for an elf.
When
For an
I
elf.
hated
jumped
that.
off
I
the
gotta
boat-
say
Hear
right
it.
now.
Because
I
I'm
kinda
rough.
hated it. I'm like,
There's
dude.
gotta be a limit to that.
Yeah, like
When-
Amroth couldn't do it, and he was a lot
Mhm,
closer to
yeah.
shore.
But I was like, is Galadriel? Is it when
Why you
she
gotta
jumped? I
do that
thought,
to
is she
Amroth?
actually gonna swim the Sundering Seas? She's gonna swim all the way back? Sure.
She was willing.
Sure. Okay.
She was
Why
willing.
not?
Yeah. Right. Got it. All
She
right.
was
She-
gonna
I mean,
try.
just
I mean, they
goes.
gotta. I mean, she
It's
did
just
go
swimming
across.
the channel, right? It's
Yeah.
just swimming the channel.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an ocean or
It's not an
anything.
It's just
endless
swimming the
sea that
Atlantic.
is on a flat
Yes.
earth that apparently like just
Mhm.
you fly off the edge into a blessed realm. It's not
Yeah.
like that. I promise you.
She,
Like,
she's swimming the Atlantic.
right,
Yeah.
no
Yep.
biggie.
That's what's happening.
Essentially,
Yeah.
Anyways,
Which,
so she
fair
ends
enough.
up
Yeah.
with these random people.
Real quick, Pete, before you continue with the synopsis, I need to go. So I'm just gonna throw this. I'm gonna drop the mic with I think the stranger's Gandalf. Bye.
No, I
Probably.
think the stranger is a
Probably.
Balrog.
No, but
Oh!
I think the stranger is a
Whoa.
Balrog. I had
That would be
never
too
heard
crazy.
this
What is happening
until this
right
event.
now?
That would be
Until
so
this event,
crazy.
And I was like,
Interesting.
I heard this
about it
theory
earlier.
and now I don't hate it. I
Yeah.
started out with like, I hate this idea, but then I thought
Yeah.
about it more
Oh
and
my
more. And I'm
God,
like, I don't hate
literally.
this.
On money at this point, but we were all like,
Good.
no, that's terrible. That's not happening. Not do that. But then, like our 3-hour long discussion that we had in my friend's living room today, we went into this in quite some depth, and now I'm like, oh,
Could be interesting. Could be interesting. There's a
Yeah.
Why
lot
would
of
he take
potential.
human form? And if he took human form, is he locked to the form? I
Yeah,
wanna
Now,
know.
it's breaking
But
all
he
sorts
ate-
of
he
canon.
was
It's breaking
eating.
all
We
the
know-
lore and
I
everything.
don't. It
But like, who cares?
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's breaking
You
all the
think-
law, but
I
it could
just-
be.
Why?
It's
my
out.
problem.
Okay,
To the
explain it.
fire.
I'll listen to this later because that's really intriguing. But
What?
love you all. Gotta go. Bye.
Bye,
Love
Nick.
you.
Bye.
Yeah.
So it says
What?
it's not a human. It's not a
Yeah.
human. It's not a
No.
dwarf. It's not an elf. Something else, which
Yeah,
clearly
literally, it's
indicates
what
Maya,
Poppy,
right?
Poppy literally
Now,
says that it's something else.
Gandalf seems like too obvious because when they were
I
doing
was
like
going
when they were
Blue
doing the
Wizard.
trees bending, it was just like
Who, Alatara
Blue Wizard is true,
Palando? Is
but
that the
where's the
names?
other
Or
one?
Anna?
Yeah.
I think that's the name.
also
like that.
I love that name.
also the reason I
Palando.
don't think it's the reason I changed my mind to Balrog and I think it would be interesting is that when he was using the fireflies to write the message, I thought that's interesting. That's it's sort of like a
That's
Gandalf
very-
reference.
that's
One of the
very
Blue Wizards
Gandalf.
doing it, but then the fireflies died.
Yeah,
It's like
and
he
that
was using
like
their
a-
life force.
Oh,
He was using their life to do it, and it's like that's not good magic. That's dark magic.
But he
There's
didn't just
something
kill the
very
ones that were
sinister.
in the.
There's something very sinister about.
exactly.
He's doing stuff
What if it's
that is-
Saruman?
No,
Because
because
didn't
Saruman
you-
wasn't evil till a lot later.
Yeah, Saruman wasn't
Okay,
a
so
bad
I was
person.
reading up on the Unfinished Tales, and it was like the whole part about how Saruman became jealous of Gandalf, obviously because he got one of the 3 rings of the elves and stuff, and you know,
Mm.
because he was initially
What a
chosen for the White
lame.
Council. It's gonna
But
be
then
lame,
this
yeah.
Saruman wouldn't have that reason,
Can
right?
I also say
Exactly.
one more
Because
thing
Gandalf
about
doesn't have
to
the
me
ring.
that points at Balrog? So we know there's going to be a Balrog in it because we saw
Yes.
it in the trailer.
Right.
And when that happened in the trailer, I don't know about everyone else, but I went, Durin's Bane. Like, that was my assumption. Because we've got Khazad-dûm, that's got to be Durin's Bane, right? What if that was the misdirection? We know there's going to be a Balrog in it. We've got this mysterious person who's doing things that we know other Maya can do, but with a very sinister twist on them. So
Mhm.
maybe
It's
that's
like-
the
Okay,
Balrog.
so suffice it to say that's true. Why is he trying to communicate? What is your what is your reasoning for him being human? And
Yeah, well,
you
this is
know,
the issue.
why
It is
is he
breaking
Yeah,
the
a
this
law.
is the
meteor?
point where we're like, we don't know
Why
what's
is he
going
a
on. It's
meteor in
breaking
the
all the canon.
sky? Is my
It-
main
Yeah.
concern. Like, what? How does
He's
that?
a
Yeah,
fiery,
like
he's a Balrog, he's a Maya of fire.
Yeah, no, we know in canon they can't. Balrogs
I'm not
can't change
I'm not
their
even bothering
form.
canon. I'm asking
They
your
can't.
opinion of like why you think
Mhm.
this would be the case. I'm not like questioning you.
So
I'm
it's
actually
all the
curious
fire
why you
imagery
guys think
relates to
this.
him.
Yeah,
You
He
think that's
crash
what it
lands
is?
as a meteor with surrounded by fire.
which is
When
why.
he wakes up and he screams, when his energy
Yeah.
releases, you see the fire flare.
Yeah,
The
which
use
is
of
why
the
initially
fireflies.
when he was in the
Yeah.
trailer, sorry Onyx, but was why when he first appeared in the trailer, because of the way he's lying surrounded by the fire, I was so certain he was obviously going to be Sauron because it evoked so much the image of the Eye of Sauron.
I agree with that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but now
It's,
I
would
really
be
don't
the
think he's
craziest
Sauron
thing.
anymore. But
What
I
are
think
your
it would be the
Balrog
thoughts
craziest
on?
thing, but I wouldn't
but
be
I like
against
it.
it.
I like it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it if he's a Balrog.
So if just
Yeah,
based on
same.
what you
It
guys
grew on me a
know,
lot.
how do you think he would go from, because we know we're going to see, if that is the case, then we know we're going to see him as Balrog. So how do you think that we would get from here to there?
That's the part. The part I'm
Mhm.
worrying about is what happens to the Harfoots if he does.
Oh.
No.
Well, we're going to Ariador because I'm
Lee!
not messing with this
No,
Durin's
it's
Bane
like-
anymore.
We were talking, yeah, we were saying,
Yeah.
if he ever turns, the Harfoots are done. That's great.
Yeah,
It was nice
and
knowing
we
them. They're gone.
can't take that. They are precious
But,
cinnamon rolls. Must
Yeah.
be protected at
So
all
I was
costs.
having
She's called precious cinnamon rolls.
Maybe he'll be their
Yeah.
It's
pet
appropriate.
Balrog.
I love cinnamon roll.
Yeah,
now,
It's
Andy,
Goth
you
Bog
asked how he's
straight
gonna
up.
Cinnamon roll.
turn. You asked how he's gonna turn, and so I was having the same discussion that the stranger is a Balrog with someone else for 3 hours before, and
yeah.
maybe it was just the fact that it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Is
Seems
that
like a good
we
idea.
got
3 o'clock in
very
the
sort of
morning.
very not lightheaded, but we just went all out crazy. So he was saying he's a were-Balrog. He turns into a
What?
Balrog.
Well, he's a Maya.
But-
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like also
not?
in the mention
So-
of where something, what did you guys think about the design of the wolves?
The wargs.
Or whatever
are
you want
not-
to call
I
them.
think
They
they're
called them
wargs.
wolves. They called them that.
But
They
they're
called them
not. They're not
wolves.
wolves.
No.
They're not wolves.
Yeah,
They
but
just
I'm
don't
just
know.
saying in
Yeah,
Hobbit
that's what they
I'll
called
fight
them.
someone
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
I'll fight any one of
Um,
those. It's not a wolf. He's not a cute doggo or proto doggo. He's not like what I can see a doggo
He- bear-
becoming
He's
coming
a man
from.
bear pig.
It's
Yeah.
a man bear pig,
I
exactly.
do think you nailed it with Man Bear Pig. Yeah.
That thing looked like man bear pig. You're right. Al Gore's gonna pop out in Middle Earth and be like, you know,
I
you
have
all
no
have
idea
super
what you're
serial
talking
about this,
about.
guys.
South
I
Park.
don't get the
Cereal.
reference. I don't understand.
That's man bear
This
pig.
was like an American reference.
It's
It-
American South
South
Park
Park.
reference. Well,
Oh,
back
okay.
so like I
Mhm.
don't watch South Park anymore because I like find it terrible nowadays. But the first like 5
Once
seasons
upon
were
a time, though.
hilarious.
To be
Like,
fair, I haven't watched it since I was about 12. So
yeah, it's
Yeah.
been years
Yeah.
since I've watched
Yeah.
it. But everyone knows
That-
man bear pig.
Yeah, it's just one of the
So
things.
Well, not
the
everyone.
other
in America.
the other theory then that we had, the other sort of when we were sort of going into like it had been 3 hours of discussion and we were all getting tired.
Yeah.
The idea that other came up when we came up with is if they did this, I have so much respect for them. It's gonna make everyone so angry, but I'll have so much respect for them. Is that Theo is the Witch King,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that
no, I
blade
can see
is
that.
the blade is the blade of the Witch King. That the Witch King time travels into the past, gives himself the blade, so he becomes the Witch King.
I feel like they're making reference that this is belonging
we
to
in Doctor
Sauron
Who
somehow. Yeah.
Why not?
Why is there
not?
time travel?
Well,
Cut it
yeah.
out.
Why not?
Sure,
Pushing
I
it, bro.
See,
you know
canonically,
what you say?
in,
If they
in Lord of the
actually
Rings,
just
there is
went,
time
fuck it,
traveling.
we're doing
Well,
time
okay, what
travel in
time?
Yeah.
Tolkien
Please
now.
reference the
Time
time
travel does
travel.
exist.
That takes
Fucking, we're
So
bringing in
Tolkien's
David
entire
Tennant.
idea, Tolkien's entire idea for like the way this is working, one of the ways they came up with to explain how Middle Earth is our past is that there are two, Elfin and Elfwine going back in
Yeah.
time to characters who have the same names as them, and
But
they're
that's
like,
not
they're
canon. That's the
so
cottage
this is just
play,
the
Lost
Witch King
Cottage play or
going back
whatever.
to the Witch King, time traveling back to the Witch King to drop off a
Sly
sword.
Dog, you're bringing up
The Witch
non-canon
King
stuff.
hops in the TARDIS and goes back in time to the
It
second
would be
age.
the wackiest thing, and it would
I
make
don't-
And he
everyone
uses
so
the
I don't
angry.
Doctor's
hate-
sonic screwdriver to break the sword.
I don't hate the idea of Theo eventually becoming like this
I
evil.
started
I
thinking
do
that he's
hate
a
that idea.
Nazgul.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gonna
I
become a
think
ring.
he's gonna be-
I really feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
But
the Witch
I-
King.
Yeah,
No,
but,
not the Witch King.
but somebody,
So-
and I feel like they're making reference though that this blade has something to do with Sauron, and also what the fuck was up with it drinking his blood?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, dude, oh no,
Like we're seeing like a proto Morgul blade almost, like
Yeah.
like we're
Well,
just. Okay, so two things just before, like
yes,
I'm super curious, like of all the like magic going on here, because like magic is not something that's super discussed in Lord of the Rings, but it's all dark magic. And I think like you're right. I want to bring up, this is something that I've like thought about a lot. I think we all have having a veil pulled over our eyes right now over what we think is good and bad. Because
Mhm.
what we're going to see through this whole story is, and they even say it in all the promos, is that we're going to see people go to such extents of what they think is good to save their people and protect what's theirs and their realms, and end up committing like evil in order to do so.
Yeah.
And so
But
we're
this-
like, maybe from our perspective, we're going to be like, oh, Sauron's evil and all this stuff. But in their perspective, we're going to see struggle where it's like, they don't have choice now. Their choices are being removed. And I really hope they play on this, because we need to see Sauron be this, masterful tactician, this
Mhm.
person that doesn't just attack you in warfare, but attacks you like mentally.
Oh,
That
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
is a chess
he's
player.
Clever. Yeah.
He's a chess player who's
absolutely.
sitting here, and he's like, right now, if it is Halbrand, like they better have a good excuse for him just be sitting on a freaking boat in the middle of nowhere with 3 people knowing
It's
exactly
to
where Galadriel's go. Like,
Yeah, it's to
It's
get
like-
Galadriel. I mean, because we know that
but like, how
Sauron
would he
sees
know
Galadriel as his
exactly
biggest
like
threat.
what was gonna happen? How would he have known that Galadriel was gonna jump off the boat? How would he have known that Galadriel was gonna get sent back? It's a lot of like too much explanation for Halbrand to be this person. That's the only reason why I don't agree with the
Yes,
theory,
yeah.
because it's just
Mhm.
it's too much. Like, there's gonna be too much backpedaling to be like, oh, did you not notice this? And it's like, well, no, dude. Like, you were just
It's
in the
like,
middle of like the
I-
Bellingar
There were,
Sea.
there
Stop
were
smoking
things
drugs.
about
Like,
Halbrand that were like, they instantly make you think Sauron, to the extent where I was like, is it too on the nose? Is it too obvious to actually, like, literally the first thing Halbrand says, which is appearances can be deceiving. And you're like,
yeah, I'm like,
is
please don't.
that too obvious?
A little bit, if you think
Yeah.
about it, because they had
Yeah.
leaks about the plot saying that.
And
Like,
then, but then there was
months
the
ago.
thing about
I
what's his
think-
name? The guy who plays Halbrand. What's
I can't
is
remember.
it
Charlie
Vickers?
Vickers. Yeah.
Charlie Vickers. So apparently, in an interview, he was asked who's his favorite character from the lore, and he said Tevildo. And it's like, why would he know who Tevildo was if he hasn't been researching
Wait,
Sauron?
I don't know who Tevildo is.
Tevildo, Lord of Cats? He's like the
Oh.
precursor of
He
Sauron
was-
in the
yeah,
Leia
Oh
Luthien
my
He was
fight.
like
God.
So
very early
either-
iteration
either-
of Sauron.
Yeah, he's done all the research and knows everything about Tolkien's Legendarium, or he's researched a lot about Sauron.
He's not-
I
Because
just
it's like-
wanna-
No,
I just
well,
wanna-
Tevildo's a really, really nuanced point from Tolkien, because he
Mhm.
even explicitly
Yeah.
states this is a precursor to who Sauron was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So how
like,
does he know
why would
that?
he need to know this information?
Yeah.
Why would he read the
exactly.
Leia of Luthien in the first place, unless to compare 3 things: Leia Luthien into The Lord of the Rings, and finally into the actual story of Beren and Luthien that we see in the Silmarillion? Because we know after The Lord of the Rings was finished that he dedicated all of his work to the Silmarillion. And then obviously he didn't finish it, but Christopher Tolkien gathered all of his father's notes, and that's where we get our indiscretions, like Fingon being Gil-galad's father, or whatever it is. I think that's the point he made, and they screwed up in it, right? It's Fingon's his father, even though technically it should be, I guess,
Orodreth.
Orodreth. Even though, isn't Orodreth mentioned to be Fingon's brother, but it should have been his cousin too in the Silmarillion as well, right?
It's because Orodreth was initially the 5th child of Finarfin, but
Mhm.
then Tolkien moved him to being the brother whose name I can't remember, the one who's not I ignored, and Finrod. Angrod?
Angrod.
Yeah. He moved him to being his son. So he became Finrod's nephew, because originally he wanted Gil-galad to be Finrod's son, not Fingon's, Finrod's. But then he decided he wanted Finrod to remain unmarried. So he made him the son of his nephew. Yeah, I don't know why he moved the brother, but yeah, he did. So, but yeah,
that's so
I just want to say
interesting.
something. I just actually, was having all these theories now about Halbrand is Sauron and stuff. It's gonna be funny in like however long a time we'll look back at this and we'll either be laughing at ourselves for being so
Yes.
stupid or
Yes.
patting ourselves on the back for working it out.
I agree.
That's gonna be interesting to see.
Because I really thought that he was gonna be, she when she figured out that like he had seen orc, she was really like, oh shit, you got to take me there. And obviously they're gonna go to Numenor first, but I always thought that was gonna be like how she figures out, like gets to Middle Earth, like where like the actual people dealing with the shit is. But I also will have to go soon. But I just wanted to hear everybody's like quick thoughts on like overall impressions. Like, what are your overall feelings, and what are you most excited to see next? Just for my own personal benefit.
I could go.
Yeah, go on.
I think things like the show looks amazing and the music is great. That's a given, which at this point, because I've read that in so many reviews and so many people are saying it, and I'm just like, it's why it's specifically, it's like, I said it in my video right at the end of like, it looks amazing, goes without saying. It does, it's the best looking TV show. It's the best looking thing out there right now. So yeah, it goes with that. That's expected when you spend so much money on a thing. I think I am enjoying quite a lot of it. I think because if we keep talking, we'd be like, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. And it's like, there's a lot of things that we don't like, but I think that sort of details or all focused on one area. Because I do like a lot of the Half-Earth stuff. I do like everything that the dwarves are doing. I like everything going on in the Southlands. What I don't like is what's going on with the elves. And I think like Nick said, it feels a bit ham-fisted occasionally of like character arcs of like, they have to go so hard one way to then make it go the other way. It doesn't feel right. It feels off to me. And also like the language that's being used and the way they're talking, the Elvish communication, Elvish language, not the Elvish language in Elvish itself, but like the language that the elves are speaking, the word choice of the elves feels off to me. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's trying to be poetic, trying to be grand and like noble and Elvish, but it's not really working. But what I do like about the language is that I do enjoy how elves, dwarves, humans, and the hobbits sound very different. When you see when like, Elrond is talking to Durin, and when the Southlanders are talking, and the difference between Arondir and the villagers talking, like there's clear differences, and I do like that. I do like a lot of things happening. I think there's interesting themes being set up about mortality, and like responsibility, and like the way that different people see the idea of like, it's evil is in your blood and your ability to change, and the elves just not understanding certain concepts about mortals. And I think that's really well being set up. I think they've done a masterful job of introducing so many characters and so many concepts and so many plot lines so well in just over 2 hours. I think it's
while keeping you interested too. Like, I didn't feel super overwhelmed with the show.
Yeah.
Not at all. No.
I feel like I think I've spoken to
people. Yeah, I think I've spoken to people who weren't, like experts in like lore, like people who just haven't read the Silmarillion, or maybe they've just seen Peter Jackson's films, and they were like, yeah, I really liked it. And the interesting thing they said was that a lot of people I spoke to who doesn't know Second Age or like First Age stuff really liked Elrond.
Yeah.
Really, really liked what Aramayo was doing with Elrond. And I think it's because Robert Aramayo is doing an excellent performance of that Elrond. I think he's doing an amazing job. So I think there's a lot going on for the show, and I think there's a lot they're doing really well. And a lot of it does feel like Middle-earth. I think the weird thing that doesn't feel like Middle-earth to me is Linden. Stuff in Linden feels off. And that's the only point where I'm like, that doesn't feel like Middle-earth. for the Harfoots, the Dwarves, the Southlands all feel Middle-earth. And I just wanna see Numenor at this point. I think the show
Yeah.
needs Numenor. I
Same.
think
Yeah.
it needs what Numenor
Yeah.
is bringing to the show, and I'm excited for that.
I think
that's me
that
done.
we have a lot to look forward to. I am very feeling very positive about the show. I'm trying not to be such a nitpicky person, which I think a lot of us can be. Personally, you're right. I think the elves are the weakest part of this whole
Mhm.
thing, and I'm kind of surprised that my favorite part are the newly created characters.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
felt
they
that way.
Well, that's
Same.
about it.
really epitomize like what we want from Tolkien, where it's like suspense, awe, mingling. We see different races mingling. We see communication. We see doubt. We see a lot of like the human condition existing, even just in these small scenes with it. Because like, what is the Lord of the Rings really about? It's about end, and it's about death. And people like, I think a lot of people forget those are the main themes of that book. While in the second age, we're going to see kind of that kind of climax and decline. So we got a lot to look forward to. We're going to see a lot of a lot of conflict between these friendly races. I'm super excited to see that more than anything.
Mhm.
I feel but very similar. Like there is stuff in it that I still really dislike, and I'm trying very hard to get over it, and I hope I do eventually, but we'll see. Celebrimbor, in case you weren't
Old Man
obvious.
Brimbor?
I'm liking
Yeah.
him. I think
I
the more he
enjoy.
talks, the more I like him.
I did enjoy his whole thing because he felt more
I did,
like
yeah.
he felt more distinguished when he's talking. Then
Yeah.
like he shows like why would he have that hammer? Obviously he's recognized as a great lord or a great smithy as well. And I'm really excited to see. I forget the name, the Mintha Guar, like what I'm talking about, the great
Whitey
smithies.
Mildine.
Thank you, because you would know the term right off the top of your head. But I'm really excited to see the creation of that. Actually, that's like what I'm super looking forward to. I think even KnewBetta said he's like, "Yo, you see that dude Celebrimbor? Like, he's puffing his chest. He's not a little guy. Like, he's gonna get in there and
No.
do some smithy work."
We were talking. I was talking
Yeah.
to Lee, and we were saying like he looks off because what he's wearing is like, is that an Elven
Yeah.
Smith just walking around wearing
Yeah.
that? I think, which made me think there's gonna be a sequence we see where Celebrimbor is like, okay, all the talking is over and all the getting people together is over. It's time to craft, and he's like, that comes off, and like the Celebrimbor, this Elven Smith comes out, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, I get. All right, I get it now. It's like they're
I
holding
hope
the cards
so.
back as like cards close to their chest, and they're gonna show us Celebrimbor the Elven Smith at some point in the
Yeah.
season, and we're like,
I
oh,
think
I
so.
see now why this guy is such a big deal.
Yeah.
I hope I get there with him, because I hate not liking him, and I really hope that I will get used to it and accept it. But like that and then I agree with everything about Lindon and pretty much we said. I love that I've been so happily surprised that I love the original stuff so much. Mordovith Clark is just phenomenal.
We haven't talked about Galadriel enough in sense of how good she is.
Yeah, like Mordovith is amazing. All the acting was pretty solid, but she just somehow manages to convey so much about Galadriel, like the age and how much time, and when she's talking about how she's lost so many. And I am very intrigued by a lot of the story. I like that I don't know everything that's going to happen. I like that they've got so much original stuff going on that we can watch it and be surprised and be intrigued and not know. Very excited to see Numenor, because as we say, so much, like Numenor is such a huge part of the whole second age. So really excited to see Numenor. Like what Annex was saying there about people who are more casual fans. So I had a friend who was there yesterday. It's like she's a very casual fan. She likes the Peter Jackson films, but she never read the books or anything. And she absolutely loved it. She loved everything, and she basically said that she loves Elrond particularly. Like she absolutely adores Elrond.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from people.
Yeah. So I find, and I'm gonna like keep in touch with her as it goes on, and I'm kind of like considering doing like a live stream with her at some point, because I find this really interesting about what casual fans, and obviously I hope everyone knows I don't mean that in a pejorative at all, but casual fans against the crazy nerds like us, because from what I've seen is that most of the issues that we have with it stems from our knowledge of the lore. And one thing I like about that is it's shown that they've made it accessible to a mainstream general audience, which is great because it means so many people are going to be able to watch and enjoy it and not feel like I don't know what's going on. So I love
I think
that.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I know there's going to be so many issues with gatekeepers now that the show is out and all that, but I love that it's proved that it's accessible because someone who's only ever seen the Peter Jackson films fully could follow what was going on and absolutely loved it and loved that one. But yeah, the issue that most of our issues come from lore stuff is interesting to me, and I'm going to put it to my friend when I ask her, like, well, what do you think about an elf looking so old and stuff like that, because I'm really interested in how that comes across to casual viewers. So I think I'm looking forward to basically seeing their experience with it as well. Really intrigues me.
Yeah, I
could say one
cannot
more thing
wait
about
until my husband and like Anna can see it because I desperately want to know what they think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do want to note one more thing about the language, which I know I said like it feels off the Elvish language. It doesn't always. I think there are moments where it's hitting its stride and it's like, this is what they're trying to do with all of the Elvish speeches. And it's that moment where Galadriel is talking to Halbrand and she says, I think Lee, maybe you can remember the whole line properly, but it's something like, you could list names for your whole life and you still wouldn't list everyone that I've lost.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such an Elvish way of describing how many people she's lost and how much she's lost over the years. And it's like, it's the idea that a human can't even comprehend it.
Reminds us how old she is as well.
And I thought that was an excellent line. And but then to me, the one that didn't work is I don't think the metaphor of the light in the water, I think it got too convoluted and got lost in itself.
Like that either.
What was the
It got lost in itself.
The
idea. It's the Finrod.
The thing that Finrod tells.
The conversation with Finrod is.
Yeah.
And
I'm just
the rock sinks because it's looking to the water, because it's looking to the earth. The boat floats because it's looking to the light. And then she says, well, how do we know which way the light is? Because when it hits the water, when it's hitting the water, then we can't tell if it's up or down. And then he's like, well, you have to touch the darkness. And I was like, I think it got lost in itself. I think the metaphor got convoluted and lost.
It was not a good metaphor. And that disappointed me because it's like Finrod would do better than that.
Yeah.
You know, Finrod would never come up with that crap a metaphor.
Yeah. At the end of the episode, because it shows us like Finrod whispers a secret to her and we're like, we don't know what it is. And at the end we find out what the secret was. And it's like,
I was just like this really impactful sentence, but instead we're just going, what?
Yeah, I sort of, when I heard the line, I went back, I was like, so what did he say at the start? I was like, what does this metaphor mean in the end anyway? And it's like you had to jump into the darkness, and in this metaphor, the darkness is the water? Because she remembers that and jumps into the water?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
It was not great.
I need a double take with that.
Yeah.
I gotta rewatch it. Like, when does it come out exactly? It comes out at like what time tomorrow?
Evening.
US 9.
You said it in a video annex.
I think 9.
It's 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
What's that?
Tomorrow. Well.
So it's 2 o'clock in the morning for us again, like it is with House of the Dragon. We get it at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, I'm going to be watching it at 2 o'clock in the morning. We're not doing a watch party, are we?
We're going to do it on Saturdays.
I don't know if I'll be able to attend. I'm going to be in a.
I might not be able to attend. We'll see. I'll see.
But we'll have them every week, so.
Yeah.
I might not be able to do next Saturday either.
You know what?
Quit making plans.
Wait. Prime Video set
Stop having a life, Anna. Jesus.
Rings of Power premiere.
This is your life.
3 a.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. on Friday, September 2nd.
Yes. Wait. Huh?
This doesn't sound correct.
3 a.m.
Yeah, doesn't sound correct.
It's 2 a.m. UK time. 2nd.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Let me read another source. That doesn't feel accurate.
I believe it was 9 p.m. The first episode was 9 p.m. and then the rest
2
The
a.m.
rest of
to
them are
12
midnight.
midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Rest
the
stop at
United
midnight,
States is
yeah.
9 p.m. Yeah, I don't know. That's on Prime Video, yes. So I don't know why people are still saying it's September 1st, isn't it? Why do they keep saying the second?
Yes, it will be.
I'm so confused.
It's because
Well,
the
it's
rest
the
of the world is
second,
dropping on
yeah,
the
it'll
2nd.
be the 2nd of
By
September
the
here.
by the second,
Okay,
everyone
then
will
I'm just
have
a
it.
clown who's just,
Time zones.
making
It's,
myself
yeah.
in
seem
North
more
and South
American. I
America have it on
I'm
the
a
1st.
typical
Everyone
Yan.
else, the time zones at the 2nd.
It's okay. But overall,
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah.
will say I'm super excited to see. I think my
I
biggest
do.
thing is Numenor. I want to see Numenor so bad.
Wait, can't wait.
I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna be
Agreed.
I
amazing.
think it'd
I'm
be-
really
it'd be so
excited to
amazing if they got it
see
right.
where they take the storyline of men, and like we're obviously already like they're establishing a certain flavor of men in Middle Earth as of now. We're about to get a new one in Numenor.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the contrast between the Southlanders that we've seen, which are like very, very kind of rustic countryside folk, and now we're going to get to see the great civilization of men, and the contrast that there's going to
That'd
be
be
there
cool.
is really, really. I'm looking forward to that.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see like the progression. I mean, we've talked about this several times as far as like the characters themselves, but I'm hoping that this means that along with their storylines, we see these, regions and civilizations and societies change with them. I know it's going to be interesting with like the time compression, but I think I'm assuming that we're still going to get it anyway, just because that's what I want. So I'm really interested to see what they do there. I am desperate to find out what is going on with Arondir, like how he deals
be
with
real
I
this.
love him
basic.
and I need more of him.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
be real
I love-
basic. I need my references to Elros and the 3 lines of the Dine. I need
Yeah.
some reference.
I
Yeah.
Just a
totally
mural of some sort, some bull crap in the back. I need to see
Yeah.
like
I mean, I would be shocked if
something.
Galadriel doesn't mention it. Like
Like, if there's a mural of a guy that looks like Elrond in
Yeah.
Numenor.
There's
That'd be
gotta be
sweet.
something in
key.
Numenor.
Or like
of,
having the
their founder.
bow, the axe, and the sword over like somewhere near the throne room in some way would be sick. Like honestly, you
Yeah.
see the sword of like Thingol, I think, and then the axe of Tor and the bow of forget the bow. Is the bow is who again? It comes to someone
Oh.
specific.
That the other people is the people of Haleth, isn't it?
I don't know. Let me
But
look.
I don't know if I think Andy,
To
you make
Tolkien
a good point
Gateway.
about the time compression. I don't think because of the compression, I don't think we're gonna see the building of Gondor and Arnor.
what?
I think it's I don't because think about it. The
Absolutely
fact
not.
that, because you gotta have them come in, you gotta have them. I think season 4 will be the destruction of Numenor. Spoilers.
Really?
And
Why
then
do you think
season
that?
5 will be the War of the Last Alliance. because
I think
you
yeah,
need-
I agree. I think that's going to be
in
like
the book, there's
the
that
climax of
100
the last
something
series,
years
series 4.
between them coming to Middle Earth
Yeah.
and fighting Sauron, but they can't come to
Yeah.
Middle Earth and then just
I
do
mean,
100-year time skip.
there's like 100 years between Anatar going to Eregia and the forging of the first rings of power,
Yeah.
and so.
I know.
Yeah, I think.
Unless that
Series
is the
4,
one
the
time
climax
skip they
is going to
do.
be like the last episode is going to be the fall of Numenor, and then the last series is going to deal with the remnants of Numenor in Middle Earth, and all the last alliance stuff, and the final battle with the final.
You don't think
battle,
they're gonna do the colonization bit?
No.
I think they'll do well. I think they'll
I
do
kinda
colonization
don't
by
know.
the Black Numenorians. I think they'll do that. I mean, as in like
yeah,
Elendil
okay,
coming
yeah,
over and like
it's
building
too-
Gondor.
Yeah,
I feel
actually,
like they might.
It's too early to say because we need to see Numenor first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking that like Numenor's already built, but we might start seeing like because everything kind of feels folded in on
I
itself.
think they might have maybe they'll have the colonies like already founded, because we know they got such. If it was just Numenorians and elves, they'd have a lot more time, but because they've got just normal human characters like Bronwyn in, they have a tiny time place, assuming that she isn't going to die of old age in the next series or something. So maybe they'll show that the colonies, because they did have colonies already along the shores, like Aldarian did loads of that. Sorry, Aldarian. So yeah, like maybe they'll be the like a very simple beginning of Gondor settlements. sort
Yeah,
of
I
thing,
just want a
you know?
little taste.
Yeah,
You know what I
like
mean?
they'll have
Unless they
very
do that.
small towns already
Yeah.
there.
Unless they do a 100-year time jump. When at the end of season 4, before season 5 begins, they're like 150 years later. And then it could be that most by that point, I think most of the human, because I have a theory that like most of the non-canon characters like Bronwyn, Theo, Theo's gonna end up being one of
Actually,
the ring
that's the
wraiths.
point. If
gonna
Theo's
die a
going to be a
tragic
ring
death.
wraith, they're going to have to move time along for him to be an adult.
So we could be like, they showed up and then it could be like a brief sort of sequence of like Gondor gets built. And I don't think that would need too much explanation for the audience, because it's like, we know what Gondor is. So it's just sort of being like, they showed up and hey, that city that we know, they built that in between.
Yeah, because I want them to
Like a few
show
montage.
I'm just thinking about like on the Elendil Isildur side of things, that like obviously they're in Numenor right now, but and then that all just goes poof, and then how do they deal with that? Like how do they handle that as people, not
as
just
people? No, that's a really good point. Like that's a whole new level of trauma,
right,
and grief to deal with.
And I want them to use that to be like, Isildur is a cool ass dude. He had some shit happen.
We're gonna get justice for Isildur.
That's what I want.
If I have to hear someone
that
else
tree
say
multiple
"Eat
times."
Isildur" again, I'm gonna be so upset. Like this man has been given such discredit because of Peter Jackson. Like if I had ever a chance to ask Peter Jackson anything, I'd be like, "Yo, why would you screw up such an integral person? Like just to completely blatantly." Oh, for the sake of story. It's like, yeah, great for the sake of story, but it's like even when he takes the rings, even when he takes the ring, like he's not like, oh, it's like precious to me. He's like, this is for my father. This is an heirloom of my home. I'm gonna take this as what my father died for. He has no idea the ring's
He did say it was precious to me. He does say that.
Yeah,
but his note to himself.
He does. Yeah, it is precious to me.
He says it, but like I'm talking about the initial.
Yeah.
When he takes the ring initially, he's like, "This is an heirloom of my house."
Because he doesn't write that for several years.
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah,
that's what he says. But there's no way we can know that the ring wasn't already working on him, and so he's just using that as an excuse to keep it.
Maybe it was already working on him. I'm not denying that, but I think the way they portrayed him in Peter Jackson's,
I think you're
immediately like he's in. They never went to the cracks of Doom. They never did any of that.
Yeah.
And like he's like, oh, the ring is tempting me. And
well,
even like
it's like
here's a perfect
at
example.
That point, they didn't really know fully what they were even dealing with the One Ring there. But I think Alex, I think it was you that said that earlier.
They had no idea what they're dealing with.
Yeah, so it's like, would Elrond have even known straight away at that point that it had to be, why did he know that it could only be destroyed by being thrown into Mount Doom then? Like they really don't know.
How did he learn that later? How did he learn that later? Is that ever explained? That
Saruman studied the lore of the rings for years and years and years.
With everyone?
No, he did not. But the information would have been available, is my point. In some way, to any lore master.
Elrond is a lore master.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Regardless, it's like, but Isildur, like he saved them twice.
Justice for Isildur, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I want to see a better character than just like, because even here's a perfect example in the Gladden Fields scene in like Lord of the Rings. Even then, he looks like kind of pretentious and haughty.
That was the exact word I used earlier. Is he's like haughty and arrogant, the way he's sitting on his sword, like
he's going to get his wife and child from Imlandris to meet up with his family again.
Yeah.
To go rule in his father's stead in Arnor, and his brother Aldarion is like in Gondor. It would have made perfect sense.
They just make him out to be an arsehole, selfish. And they have him like the way he's putting the ring on is basically like he doesn't care about the rest of his men. He's just going to put the ring on and try and save his own skin. And they just make him seem like a complete arsehole. It's just like.
Yeah, and it's
my ring.
It's and I think Lord of the Rings, like PJ's version, does that a lot, where it's like men are weak, like constantly, you know what I mean? But it's like, truthfully, we know that there are so many strong characters, and you know what I mean. So I'm interested to see how they take the actual text, and we get like we've talked about, in more interpretations of good and more nuanced versions of these characters, and people who are not, I don't expect any of these characters to be perfect, but I do expect them to have their hearts in the right place. You know what I mean? And I do expect, like when we're talking about Elendil and Isildur and their families, like I expect them to be, I go through all of the human emotions throughout the series, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really hoping that we see the Harfoots do, like, obviously they're tying them to the stranger at this point, which will be, I'm interested to see how they play that out, but my hope is that whatever happens with the Harfoots is that it does go unnoticed by like the elves and the Numenorians, and it's like this, it clearly has a ripple effect or whatever, or a direct effect, but nobody realizes,
Yeah,
I agree.
Oh,
absolutely
maybe
agree
they
with
just
that.
turns into a Balrog and bugs them all out.
No, stop it.
So I gotta go right now, but I just want to say this, that like super excited we all got to talk about the show. Glad you guys got to
Yes.
see it. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to all of us just ripping these shows apart, these episodes apart moving forward. But you know what? I'm gonna end it on this. I like the show. Excited for what's gonna happen. I just wish Amazon took that step above what like everyone was expecting, and they just, they really, and we still have time to see that, where we see them really push into what that material that they have is. Be it like, hell, a Tom Bombadil cameo would be like, whoa, blow me
I
off
would
the top.
love that.
I'm like,
I
oh
would
my
love
god,
that.
I'd be like, it's Tom
Please.
Bombadil.
I've been winding people up, telling them that the strange is going to be Tom Bombadil.
I would take it. I would take that nonsense. And like, I would love it, but I just want to say, like, I'm just super excited.
Nori is Goldberry.
I'm super excited that we all get to experience this, like, this new content, and that like so many other people are going to be discussing this. So many new fans are going to come, and we're going to see the same reemergence of like Tolkien that we did in 2001, and that's what was super exciting. We'll see.
Again.
Like games are going to come out, like memorabilia. We're going to see like spin-offs, all sorts of stuff, and I'm all about it.
I don't want anything except that dagger.
See, look at you. Well, that's what I feel. I want that dagger, bro. I want that dagger. I want it now.
Yeah. Fair.
And maybe that broken sword that
just a noble collection gonna get
I'll take the sword as well. I'll take the sword.
Or Theo, sorry.
My friend, are we talking about Finrod / Galadriel's dagger?
Yeah. Oh, I saw you had a 3D printed.
No, my friend actually has sculpted it from clay, and he's going to cast it in resin and then hand paint it. And so he's done, the hilt is all like interwoven different pieces, and he's sculpted it, and he is an amazing prop maker, and I can't wait to get it. I'm so excited.
How much does he charge?
Yeah, I'm about to be like, snag me one. I'll pay.
I'm not sure yet. He needs to wait till he's painted before he can put a price on it. But as soon as I know, I will let you guys know. I have a lot of things from him. He's made me like an elven dagger and all sorts, which I'll have to show you guys sometime. He's amazing.
Post it in the Discord.
Yes,
if we can.
I will.
Okay, I gotta run out. It was nice talking to everyone. I'll speak to you later.
It's late.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. We have this habit now of being like, oh yeah, we can't start talking it. We're not going to talk about it now. And then 3 hours later, and then Kali, when you and Willie rang me up earlier, and we were like, oh yeah, we won't talk about it now because we're doing the call later. 25 minutes later.
Yeah, I know.
Talking about it.
And then at the end I hear, Kali, are you still here? Yeah, I'm here.
The conversation, the 3-hour talk I had with Lee was literally like, I was just dropping a bag off.
Yeah,
I was like, I was just on the doorstep, and I was
I
like,
was just dropping.
Dropping my stuff
Lee's
off
friend was
at my
just like,
friend's
do you guys want to come in?
Oh,
and then
yeah.
we went in, and then it was like
Kisa.
3 hours later.
Kisa could see what was going to happen.
I mean, and that
I was
is what-
struggling to stand up and stuff. She's like, do you guys just want to come in and sit down? 3 hours later, and she just went off to her bedroom and left us to it. And then I was like, I'm sorry we exiled you to your bedroom.
But honestly, like,
It's the
this
same
is
thing that happened.
one of the most exciting times to be not just a Tolkien fan, but like a fantasy fan, and also somebody entering the fandom. Because I mean, like,
so
racist and misogynist aside, we know that they're there and they're gonna say their piece or whatever. But I think that hosting spaces like this, like Kali providing a space for us to not only just talk about the things we're like, I don't know about that, but like generally we're excited, we're invested, you know, we're ready to see where it takes us. And I think that these are the types of conversations that more people need to see.
And there's so much good fantasy out at the minute. It is like a good time to be a fantasy fan. There is so much, like shows and books and all sorts.
Exactly.
It's great. But obviously this is the one that's the most important to me.
Yeah. Same.
It's kind of surreal that it's actually here now, that it's happening.
I know.
It's been
Was anyone else feeling it of when the thing was about to start? My heart was beating. I could feel it. I was like, it's near. Wait, it's like, oh, this is happening. This is happening.
I made Nick hold my hand. I was like,
I was kind of sad that I ended up, just because of how everything went yesterday, I end up like sitting, obviously there were people around me, but I wasn't with anyone I knew in the theater, which I was kind of like, because especially when a certain Feanor was mentioned, I actually did a proper like, and I was like, I just wanted to turn to someone and be like, they said it.
Yeah. Was your theater as loud as ours? Like we were like,
enthusiastic.
We don't do
that's
that
an American, guys.
country.
What we don't understand is that is an American thing. We don't do that.
But of all times, you have all the people in the room. Do you know what I mean? Like these are your people. Like how do you not?
What we had was when each of the characters came in, we had polite claps, and occasionally, the one moment that did get cheers from the audience was when Bronwyn like cut the head off the thing. I was like she flopped it on the table.
Yes.
And at that moment we all went, yeah. And then that was
it was
about 5 seconds we all
mine.
clapped. Yeah. We
was like, we were in this huge IMAX. Like there was laughter. But that was it. The rest of the time it's just respectful silence. And then everyone
that's the British way. That's how we do it.
Everyone applauded
we keep
when
quiet.
each episode
We just
finished.
listen.
It was like we wait till the credits and then we show our enthusiasm. Because
are you judging me, Lee?
No, that wasn't me judging. It's just it's like a proper full-on cultural difference. Like
it's so funny.
If I was in a cinema and
cinema.
Honestly, if people did that in a cinema here, people would be going, "Shut the fuck up."
But you know what's funny is that like I have only ever had that experience in a few, and it's generally been like midnight showings, like the people who absolutely have to be there, you know what I mean?
Midnight showings are the one where there's been the exception, like, and I've heard particularly like my local cinema anyway, after the pandemic they stopped doing midnight showings of things, which I was really sad about. But I went to see Spider-Man No Way Home on opening day. And I was expecting cheers and noise and stuff, and there was nothing. And I was actually surprised because I heard a lot of other people saying that when they'd seen it, there had been a lot of noise, and it was more I don't mean this badly, but it was more American in the way people were reacting in the cinema. But it was just, there was nothing.
That's interesting.
In mine. I was actually surprised by it.
I just fully loved the vibe of the theater, that like once we were in, like you could feel everybody like was like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Well, there was definitely a buzz. There was definitely a big buzz. I will say, I think because of what had happened earlier with the red carpet stuff, a lot of people's spirits had been dampened because
that's true.
The fan tent.
It was also a very delayed start. The red carpet was very delayed. It was like a lot of it was supposed to start at like 7 or something. The show was supposed to start at 7, but it was getting to 7 and we were still like, the cast was still going through. Like, we haven't got autographs, we haven't spoken to people, and then it's just like they were just rushing through at that point of like, the cast needs to go through and just like get seated and we need to get this going.
And a lot of people,
I think it was around like
standing
in
10
when it ended.
Overcrowded fan pens for hours and hours, and like, you know, people weren't at that point in the. I know I wasn't in a good mental place at that point. Luckily, it went once it started, and I was like, it was fine when I was into it. But so maybe it was that. But I think mostly it is just a cultural difference. Is that that's not what we do. And I'm not saying it like either way is better. It's
No,
just,
yeah. I just think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, but I do love that because this is a TV show and I'm never gonna, it's not like, I hope that the people that did get tickets for tonight, like, I know like in America, and I don't remember what other countries they were doing it at, but they were doing like a theater release of like the free
they're
ticket.
doing it. They are doing that over here as well.
Nice. But I hope that there is like that feeling in the air, you know, in those theaters as well. It's all people that are excited to be there, you know. I hope that for everybody, because like, again, like it's gonna be in my house, in my living room from now on, you know, and I will just
this
have
is
Josh.
another thing we were saying, like it's going to be really interesting seeing it again, because like so the screen I saw it in was the IMAX, and it's the first time I've ever been in IMAX, and I was blown away. Like the screen virtually barely fit in my peripheral vision. So big, it's insane. So seeing it going from that to seeing it on my TV in my living room, seeing like how different it feels is going to be interesting.
Yeah, like I'm excited to be able to pause it, but
but them costume references as well, man.
However, you
that's
two
what
are
the second
here.
watch is for.
We'll get to watch it with a group, so that's something. Like physically here, so that'll be cool. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
good things.
It's good.
I think there were issues with the I think there were issues with the show that I was just like, that are like, I was having discussions yesterday. It was just like, it's deeper and it's not really conversations. I'm like, it's not really things I'm going to post about, but like, but generally I like the show. I did feel the reason when I think in the group, like I think Nick and like Pete were messaging me and was like, what did you think? And I was like, because there's a moment I came out, I was like, it's complicated. It's because I saw all of your reviews, like all of you came out and you were like, it was amazing, it was incredible, it was awesome. And I sort of came out and I was like, I wasn't feeling that way. And I was like, what went wrong? I will be 100% honest that there wasn't really any single moment where I can say that I was blown away by the show. Where I was like, oh, this was insane. I don't think there was a single moment where I was like, oh, maybe.
I don't know, I'm conflicted with that because it was visually stunning, but the lore part of my brain was going, the fuck?
What's going on? Yeah.
But be there. How is Gil-galad able to do this? And like, I can't shut that part of me up, which is sometimes to my own detriment, honestly, that I can't just get to enjoy it for what it was. But hopefully that, again, as I say, that will come with time.
Yeah, I think for me, when obviously, like we all only watched it for the one time, and like I didn't post about it for several days after seeing it. So I was just thinking about generally the feeling that I was left with, you know, and like I understand that there are changes and it's not exact, but the way I'm kind of looking at it is, you know, these as if they've only been given a sliver of like the full story, and you know, it kind of makes me think about like the tradition of a real mythology. Like this isn't one, and if you try to tell me that, then stop. But like you know, the whole mythology thing, but it reminds me of that tradition of like you have different stories told about the same characters, and you know, you use them to tell different tales, right? And so this reminds me of like if they've found like this sliver that you have, like basically the appendices and what's the references made in Lord of the Rings, and then using that to kind of weave together something slightly different, that, you know, I feel like it definitely is that, and rather than like trying to piece together what they can. I mean, I think they are doing it. I think they're trying to keep to what they can, but obviously where those gaps need to be filled, or like whenever they are doing these things about like people's character arcs, because they are, you know, trying to create something sometimes out of nothing, but not really. I don't know if I'm saying the words that I want to say, but like, and so far as trying to take what we have and weave together a compelling story, I feel like they're doing that, and I'm invested, you know. And I was left with like a real feeling of excitement afterwards. And
I
so
certainly felt that I wanted more. Like literally, they could have. We said this again earlier. They could have played the whole series for us
Yes.
that night, and I'd have happily sat there and watched
And
the whole
watched it.
thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
exactly. I feel the same
I
way.
think that's a good sign. I think that's
Yeah.
a good sign that we all felt that. Is yeah, it's just, to me, I don't know if it's the lore exactly to me, because I don't think I'm that attached to the lore. It's like most of the changes they made, I was like, to me, even like Finrod died in the second age, it's like, yeah, Finrod died in the second. I don't think it, like, it doesn't really matter to me that Finrod died in the second age, because what they're going for is that Finrod died fighting Sauron, and that gives Galadriel a motivation. And it's nice to see
Yeah.
that for once it's the male dying.
And they're
that
not
gives
even
the
really
female character
explaining the
motivation.
The
ages.
thing is,
so.
though, as well, they could literally, like, Finrod literally did die, was killed by Sauron, or
Yeah.
by one of his werewolves, but you
Right.
know, it was
Yeah.
by Sauron. So it's like they don't actually even need to break with canon. Because, like I said, as soon as it was revealed that
Baron and Luthien
Finrod,
story takes too long.
I know, but it's still that he did die by Sauron.
You know what I'm kind of
and
wondering?
You don't have to make out like that he's you know, going off hunting him or something. But like I said, as soon as I found out Finrod was going to be in this and that Galadriel was a warrior, I said she's going about getting after Sauron because it's Sauron that killed her most beloved brother.
You know what I was kind of thinking in relation to that, as far as like, what if Galadriel is making assumptions about how, like, what if she doesn't actually know the circumstances under which, I mean, maybe she does, but maybe, I don't
Someone
know.
else said this. Someone I don't know where it was. Someone else posited that, but
Mhm.
it was on Twitter, I think. But the fact of how Finrod died, like, was famous. Like,
Mhm.
Beren knew what happened, and he would have told everyone. And it's possible that Galadriel was actually still living in Doriath at that point when Beren and Luthien came back. So he could have actually, like, that. Basically, it became so renowned and so famous that there's no way she wouldn't have known.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
In this version of
But
Finrod
in this version,
and
yeah,
Finrod's death,
this version
there's
maybe.
a way that she, yeah. But no, so the point I was making is that, like, it's like there's so many changes where I don't think it doesn't really matter to me. But yeah, it's just I think the show overall is good.
Sorry, I'm
to
really
very
sorry.
good.
Can I just jump in while I remember this? Someone else did take that thing further about, so you know how Galadriel feels like she's taking on Finrod's task, and
Yeah.
the thing about if the truth about it. Someone else did say that further and say, okay, but what about in this, if that is the case, and that she finds out that how Finrod actually died wasn't hunting Sauron, it was trying to help his friend. And then she's suddenly like, oh, so I'm not following in his footsteps after all. And that can play in as like part of a catalyst for her change sort of thing. So like it could actually work if they could do it, that actually she's wrong about how Finrod died after all. And sorry for interrupting you, Anix. It's just that came back to me and I was like,
except the point about that is that Finrod died after Morgoth was killed. After Morgoth is defeated, Finrod is killed.
Oh.
I still,
I mean,
I gotta rewatch
we can double check that. We can double check that. But the way I remember it saying is that Morgoth is like the enemy is defeated, but Sauron remains at large, and we went hunting for him, and then Finrod is killed.
Okay. Yeah, like
but it could
like
because so many people are now saying differently.
That, so
yeah, I could be wrong about this, but that's the way I remember it being sequenced. But it could be.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out soon enough. We can all watch it again and. Well, no, we've got a listen out for that. We've got to count how many kids are picking on Galadriel to find out.
I didn't see the Huan and the Huan and Luthien thing, so I need to see that. I want to find that statue.
So
there's a Luthien statue.
So when you know she is obviously like looking at like the living statues, like they're carved into the living trees.
Like
there is one that appears to be an elf woman with a dog.
Oh my god, I didn't see that.
Neither did I, yeah.
I'm ready to watch
framing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd have fangirled like crazy if I'd seen that.
Like,
oh
Nick
my god.
was like punching me.
Oh wow.
I'll have to look for that too.
I'm excited to look out for that now. Yeah. Oh wow.
I was
I
just
do love.
mesmerized by her performance. I was just like, I was watching
she
more of
was
it. I was
I
like,
know.
amazing.
Yeah.
Fair.
She was so good.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm so excited for these actors. I think they are knocking it out of the park. You know, like they're so good. So
You know the
So
bit
to
when
finish up, huh?
sorry, I was saying, you know the bit when Galadriel and Elrond are reunited in Lindon and she's standing in front of that mural.
mhm.
It seems like it's depicting Eärendil because it's got like the bright star in the sky.
Yeah,
And
I
I was
think it is,
half
yeah.
expecting some reference for them to actually mention him, but just seeing like the mural of it was also like,
Yeah.
my dad's a star, my mum's a bird, and my dad's a star. Somebody actually said that to him yesterday, and apparently he laughed his head off, because I don't know if have you heard how his actual accent?
Mhm.
It's very strong, like I think it's Mancunian, very
It's very
strong
Northern
Mancunian
Yeah, I
Ireland,
got to shake his
accent.
hand.
Yeah, and it's because so he was in something where he said something like about what his mum and dad's job is. So the joke has come about of that, of like, my dad's a star and my mum's a bird. And someone
love it.
actually said that to him yesterday, and apparently he laughed his head off at it, which is fantastic.
That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna make one. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, guys, it's getting late, so
Yeah,
to wrap
it
up,
is.
and I know that I hate when I'm asked this question, and I don't think I have a number, but if you had to give a number, can you give a number to 1 to 10? What's your rating for the show? I will say now that I don't have a number because I think the number
You're
system is weird.
asking and you don't
So
have
you're
one.
asking us to do
What
it.
kind
I'm
of-
curious. I mean,
I'm
some
not doing
interview
it,
is
but I'm-
this?
some people work with numbers. Some people can just say a number, and I can't. But like, if you
No, I'm
can,
too.
what is it?
Because it's too like up and down for me, because I don't feel like I can put a number in it overall, because there are parts that I'd rate really high and parts that would rate lower, and I don't think it's and also I'm just really bad at ratings anyway.
Yeah,
I just think it's too early to make any kind of overall judgment. What I'll say is I certainly enjoyed watching it, and I can't wait to see more. And there's definitely, there are things I don't like, but there's a lot that I really do like about it as well. Like,
do we think this has the potential to be better than the films? Or is it already shaping up to be better than the films, you think?
I think it's still too early to say. I think because of the material they've got to work with. Okay, so like as the crazy law nerd that I am, I actually find third age stuff kind of boring. I very much prefer second and everything first. So because of the material they've got to work with, I'll say it definitely has the potential to be. It's just we'll see how they go about it and execute it.
I would agree with it has the potential to be better. I think that there are some things, I mean, there are so many beautiful things about the movies that many of us have grown up on or have obsessed over. But you know, there are things that I would personally do differently, and I'm sure that that will still be the case with this TV show. But in the way that the current experience that I have with the show, it obviously has a lot of more time than the movies insofar as like where it takes the story and how it may, the writers have a lot of chances to do amazing things and vice versa in not so amazing things. So, you know, it's a little more treacherous, but based on what I've seen so far, I think it has so much potential. I think that I can't really think of anybody that I would have handed this over to, and they seem to be taking it, being so considerate and so thoughtful about the decisions they're making. I think they know that they're going to do things that are kind of controversial. If truly can there be a controversy about this? No, like nobody is like doing anything horrible. You know what I'm saying? But I think that they are willing to push the fans that know and love these stories, and I think that they are doing a lot of great work in expanding how we think, a lot of other fans think about these characters, and you know, introducing to new people. So I feel really good about it. I think it could easily rank among, you know, a lot of people that I know outside of like our circle don't really know about it. So I really hope that it does capture people's imaginations and that it becomes as amazing as like, remember the height of Game of Thrones? Like it was everywhere. Like
Yeah.
I want Lord of the Rings to be, I want Middle Earth to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I hope that
what
that happens.
It was funny the day before the premiere when I went to Leicester Square to like look at what they were doing there, and people were just like walking around and going like, oh, what's going on here then? It was like, how do you not know? How have you not spent the last 4 years of your life waiting for this? What are you?
I know. Yeah, it's I clearly live in different worlds than my coworkers. But
just to hearing people saying, oh, I think it's like that Lord of the Rings thing, and it's like,
you're like, have you heard the good news about Lord of the Rings?
let me tell you about our Lord and Savior Gil-galad.
I just want to clarify, by the way, when I say Third Age is boring, I mean by comparison. I still love Lord of the Rings and I still love it. I just love
No,
the God of
Lee,
War stuff more.
it's too late. It's too late to take it back.
No, take back.
It's too late to take it back. We heard it here first. It's recorded. Lee hates Third Age. Lee hates Sam. Lee hates hobbits. And Lee hates Aragorn. And
oh my God!
everything.
Oh, no.
This is confirmed. We know this now. We know this now. Lee
Wow,
hates
Annex is his
the
own
Rings
tabloid.
Lee is a fake
bit
fan
of
who
me
doesn't like Lord
saying,
of the Rings.
I think the Third Age is boring, and just like disseminate that across
We
Tolkien
heard this
media.
first, yeah.
Honestly, it
heard it
reminds
here
me
first.
of when Peter took like that one sus moment that Faramir, when the hobbits are like, what the fuck with Faramir? And then it turns out to be like, it's like, oh, actually, I'm very chill. But then Peter took that one line and made it his whole character. That's what Annex is doing just now.
Except this is real. Like Peter was messing with Faramir, but like this is us seeing the real Lee. This is us figuring out, This is what we're dealing with, I'm glad that we at least now all know, so we can move forward with the truth.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
The slander is real.
Thought you were gonna be a doctor, not a politician.
Elrond.
Elrond, yeah.
This is no manipulation. This is telling the truth.
Debatable.
Yes.
Oh man.
Anyways,
Oh,
guys,
guys,
it is
I'm
1:30.
starving.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody,
fun.
and those
It's
who.
pretty good.
Thank you also those who left earlier for this amazing discussion. I know that I was pretty quiet, but y'all had it covered 120%. So.
Well, Callie, you and I are gonna do this again on Friday. So.
Yeah, we'll be doing lots of these. So I mean, I don't feel the need to share
And
my thoughts.
I
I
will join you on the podcast as soon as like I've recovered from everything.
Yes, of course. Yes, rest and recover from. I know that
I will
it took me. Annex is just gonna keep going, but it took us a few
it's been a
days.
crazy 3 days. There's like so much has happened in the last 3 days. It like kind of doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
It was
I hear that.
My extrovert energy has now drained, and I need a week to reset. So
Oh yeah.
I will see you guys in a week.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go and live in a cupboard for a week.
Seriously.
Doesn't sound too bad. All right. So again, anybody who wants to join us on these discussions, send me a message in the Discord, message voicesofadda@gmail.com, find us on Twitter, and we
please
will
don't
be
be put off by
happy.
Lee being a fake fan. It's fine. We won't bring
You
Lee
can
to the other ones.
Come on here and defend Lee, because clearly
Please, yeah.
he's being taken apart.
Come on, we
Callie,
need
there is no
KnewBetta back.
defending
Where
this.
is my cheerleader?
There is no defending. Lee, KnewBetta's leaving. KnewBetta's ditching once he finds out that you don't
he'll
like Lord of the
defend
Rings.
me. He's gonna come for you, Alex. He's gonna come for you with slander.
You already said that you don't like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, right?
No.
What's next? What's next?
It's getting worse.
You don't like Merry and Pippin? Merry and Pippin are boring, are they? Is this what we're coming to?
All right, Alex,
This is what we're
cutting
coming
you
to.
off.
You just like kick him out of the Zoom call.
All right, thanks, and we will
guys.
see you very shortly for some more Rings of Power wrap-ups. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.